Okay, are we ready to start?
Yes.
Do I have to gavel us in?
Yes.
Okay, starting our budget hearings for today and tomorrow at least, so.
Madam Mayor and Commission, as you just mentioned, we are starting our public budget hearings. I'll just give just a brief intro and then we'll get right into it. I'm going to let the department heads handle most of their budgets. They know their line items, they know their budget, they know the reason for increases and decreases. We start off with our two outside agencies and then move right into city departments. So we'll go ahead and get started unless anybody has any questions with LCDC and Steve Jack. You should have Steve's letter of request on the inside pocket of your binder.
Got it?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good to be here, as always. Our request of $47,973 is based on formula, as I think you all know, which is a formula developed, I think, probably nearly 15 years ago to equitably share the burden of investing the municipalities based on population and valuation. And so last year you were at 47,867 according to the formula, and this next year, 2018, it bumps up only $106. Valuation's gone up a little bit. Population has remained pretty stable. The cities, the county, and the Port Authority each put in the same amount of money. So collectively, the cities put in $82,833, as does the Port Authority, as does the county. What we've been trying to do is maintain that formula, which is has typically produced just a modest increase collectively. For example, some of the faster growing smaller communities, while not picking up as large an amount a request as the city of Leavenworth, has risen faster. But generally, it's been about a % increase in recent years collectively from the cities. What that has meant is over the last 4 years, it's been a couple $1,000 increase from the cities. But the private sector has stepped up to the tune of about $10,000 increase. So whereas 4 years ago, the private sector contributed $42,000, and in 2018 it should be over $52,000. So our total budget will be just over $300,000, $302,999 for 2018. And we're very excited about the possibilities and opportunities that we see in the new business park. We're marketing it already. There are some projects that we are declining to submit because they want shovel ready, and when they say shovel ready, we have to make a determination whether they really mean in the next couple of months, or whether they mean will it be shovel ready in 6 months. And but there are some projects, one that just came in yesterday that's a very large one that I've already talked to Paul and Taylor about, that would be a tremendous get. So as Tim Cowden at KCADC talks about deal flow, the deal flow has been tremendous. I think we're up to 55 leads this year. Over 30, I think maybe 35 active projects, and so we're looking for, the economy seems to be poised. I think with the investment in the industrial park, we're set to capture some of that growth in the economy. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, are we going to pay this one lump sum, or do we have to go to the quarterly thing again?
Our direction is one lump sum,
Yeah, okay.
and we move Mr. Jack to twice a year for his updates as he comes to see us at budget time as well, and the annual meeting, and then just an internal thing you'll see a little bit later. We've broken out LCDC and Main Street. We used to include them in a lump, economic development contractual services, and we would say that includes the LCDC and the Main Street component. They're their own line items now, so we'll be able to sort of visually track those year over year
Good.
as they go forward. So they're their own line items.
In the current industrial park, how many lots are available?
We have one 3-acre lot that we've had some moderate interest in. We have one 9.5-acre lot to the north of Cereal Ingredients that we have sort of a handshake agreement, and if it never needs to be signed, we will, with Bob Hatch. That's when you all vacated the road, because he has some ideas about that. But it could be 5 years down the road. But we certainly want to give him the opportunity to continue to grow. And then a 5 and 7.5-acre lots across from Cereal Ingredients to the east on 13th Street. And that is sitting ready to for a developer to bid on the VA CPAC. So we don't really want to touch those 12
CPAC or
acres.
CMOP?
I mean CMOP,
Okay.
yeah, the male outpatient pharmacy. So
When-
really only one that we really are marketing.
When does the VA make their decision on this CMOP? What, are they tipping their hand at all?
A year ago they came. It was July 11th, I
Right.
think, of 2016, when they had about a dozen folks that looked at the property and looked at other properties. There are 11 properties in play in Leavenworth, Wyandotte, and Johnson counties, and so that's one of them. The new industrial park is another one of them, and we're just still waiting on the word that we've got 45 days to put a proposal together.
How many employees at CMOP approximately?
240, although I'm not sure they would promise to keep all 240, but we anticipate it'd be north of 200 that would be retained if we can keep them here.
And that's a contractual service with the VA, it's not or is it a VA run? Are they tax-free or not, property tax-free or not, do you know?
They would be taxed because the landlord would not be the
That's
VA.
right.
It would be,
That's
right now it's Ron Mather, and he's paying taxes, property
It's a
taxes
leased
on
property.
it. Uh-huh.
They lease from
Yeah,
them,
and
so that is
and-
property tax.
And originally, about 3 years ago, they approached us about building their own. And then that changed to, no, we're going to lease. So we
Okay.
have developers locally, we've got developers in Ohio as well as Alabama that have expressed interest in building a facility. And so we may get 2 or 3 different proposals that would then go to the VA, and they would select one. And then the Port Authority would sign an agreement giving the land for whatever modest price or less, for free perhaps, to the developer, no matter who it is.
Thank you. How many employees at Cereal Ingredients approximately?
They were up to just over 180, 185. They've probably a dozen that are open right now. So they're around 170 to 180, which is great. They promised 55 when they came.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're
that's
doing
a
well.
good thing.
And CMOP is a very good employer too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you so
Okay,
much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Next item is Main Street.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, and staff.
Ms. Wendy Scheit.
We presented some information prior to the meeting today on the economic development activity that Main Street participates in. I will say that we're a busy office. We have many entrepreneurs, folks that want to purchase a building, existing businesses coming into Main Street, and we provide an array of resources. I always provide the city's grant information, Grow Leavenworth County, which I serve on that board as well, Main Street information, and anything else out there. Historic preservation, certainly that's on our radar, and we continue to keep an eye on that. Our built structures are very important to downtown. We do average of 40 events and activities annually to provide experiences for folks to come down in town and learn about the downtown, that we actually have a downtown. Some of those are meant as cash register ringers, and so those are ones that merchants participate in, and we bring them directly to their door. It's up to them to sell them their products and all, but we do lots of different types of marketing. Kind of a full-service, hands-on organization, and I think that's what people like about Main Street. They can come in and we follow up and send them to Will Katz. We feel like it's really important that they have a great business plan, no matter if they're expanding or if they're coming in as a new business. We want them to be successful. Downtown is always fluid, as anywhere is, but we want them to be as prepared as possible. And Tom Myers here is my board president.
All right, John.
Thank you for having us.
You have questions?
I kind of like how you broke down, like the different, what's happening with
I
different
do too.
businesses.
Very much.
If it's possible for you to, when you do your reports to us, to maybe continue that, because, there's always that shifting dynamic downtown, and people think that, things are going out of business, and sometimes it's just a transition. It's not like everything's sinking and, going, it's just, in retail, you have a lot of turnover, normal transition. That's just the market right now, the way things are with it. So that was really good information, and I know that that's a change for you guys to do that here. And the only thing I was wondering, how is the Alive After 5 program doing?
It
'Cause I
seems to
think
be
that's-
doing really well, and I know it was a low month this month.
Yeah.
But we had at least a dozen new faces that purchased tickets, so that's the goal, is to get new people downtown. But we average anywhere from 35 to over 100. The August one is a
saw the
craft beer
different-
crawl, and it
yeah.
will be well attended. The wine walk was well attended.
Okay, yeah, because I kind of noticed, sometimes it was really busy, sometimes so I just wanted to know if that was true, what I was seeing, active or not.
For the most part, I'd say probably the average is 45 to 50.
Okay.
A few are a little lower than that.
Mhm.
Like I said, in August and September, we're really pushing getting the military downtown. So we're looking for a fun hometown welcome in September, and we're looking at some activities where they actually collect an item at each business.
Yeah.
And it may be that they end up with an item to display all those things on, to take home and put on the refrigerator or on the wall.
Oh,
And so
okay.
then they would come back, and so we're always trying to include something different. October is when it's we partner with the River City Community Players, and it's a
Yeah.
whodunit. So there's an actor and a clue at each business that participates, and they really like to get into that. So anyway, we're trying to keep those changed up, and
Yeah,
a lot
that's
of
good.
fun.
Those are some good ideas. Yeah, it's just to get them in the door in the shop, any shop, yeah. No, and those are always good. If they get a little freebie thing, they like that. That's a good
And they always get
enticement.
some amazing foods and
Yeah.
appetizers and drinks.
Yeah.
But yeah, some other things.
Yeah, that's a successful,
September's also free to active duty military, so we try and get that class,
yeah.
that initial introduction to downtown,
Mm-hmm.
so they can rotate in.
Okay.
Well, 2 free tickets to active military the
Yeah.
week before. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And we'll advertise that with them. We're always at Spouses Super Sign Up in August, and we work with the Spouses Club and
Yeah.
all of the different entities with the fort as best we can.
Couple questions, maybe the status of the bakery next to Luigi's.
He doesn't really give me a date, but I think he was asked so many times when Luigi's is gonna open. So I've been in there, and there is progress. There's walls up, and I don't know that I've seen equipment yet, but I think the HVAC and plumbing and electrical are in.
And this is probably more for Mr. Kramer and Mr. Tedder, but is the new Hilton still on schedule for October 1st, as far as you know? The home to the hotel,
As far as I know,
as far as anyone knows?
well,
It
I
appears
think
to
you
be on
all would
schedule.
have better
It is on
knowledge than
schedule.
I,
Yeah,
but.
yeah.
Yeah, and the bakery, he was just at the Leavenworth Preservation Commission. They had a few items that they wanted to see him provide plans-wise, so it is still a work in progress.
Yes.
What about the one on 5th.
Fifth, yeah.
I've been working with them on a facade grant, and we've done some ADA improvements with them. They're just working as they can go.
They're not in Main Street though. Main Street, yeah.
But it is happening.
It's a long time when you're funding yourself.
One concern, or one, I'd say it was a complaint that I've heard from various citizens on some of your events, you know, using partially public money to fund them. One is an invite-only event that, you know, potentially public money was used, specifically the Rogers Irish Party. I know it's relatively small, but it's invite-only, but it's also using public money. Is that akin to, you know, the city having a swimming pool and saying only 8-year-old kids can attend, no one else can attend? The question was, public money using it, having a private party is obviously no problem, but if public money was used with it, can it be invite only?
I
Should
think
it
the
not be
shorter
open?
answer is we've decided not to do that as an invite-only program.
Okay, okay,
And
because,
just
man, I heard a lot about that.
no longer have that question.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Okay?
Yeah.
We're gonna sell tickets, that's kind of where we've
Yeah,
decided that
that's
we
what
need
you
to go.
see, if
Because
it's
of
public
those
money, yeah,
concerns
you can't.
raised, so.
Thank you. So what's your request?
Well, the minimum would be the 31,000 and change that we've received the last couple of years. If there's ever a windfall, we certainly would responsibly utilize that money and leverage it 7 to 10 times over. The money is all put back into historic downtown. We're a volunteer-driven organization. We've got an extremely creative public art group that we're putting together, and if anybody's seen the Merriweather's video that was out, those two folks are on our public art
Yeah,
committee,
that
and
was
it's
really neat.
excellent, so we're looking
That's
at
great.
more of those type of things, and I hope the city will, I plan to provide Melissa their contact information for videos that the city might be doing. They're local, they're, like I said, extremely talented. We've got a gal on it that's with the Nelson Atkins Museum. She's a fundraiser and event person, and so I know it's taken a long time for us to, at some point, come forward on public art, but we're really developing a mission statement that is comprehensive, and we really want to be prepared, and some of those areas would incorporate the wayfinding signs as well. So be patient, and we are working on it, and so, like I said, we do leverage the money over and over.
When do you think Pot Rack expansion will open?
A little bit depends on the water line, because they don't want to have an opening right when the street's closed.
Right.
So the last I talked to Catherine Ollie, they were kind of looking at that, and we don't really know. You know, it seems like our block was shut down forever, and then I look at the 500 block and it says like,
Yeah.
wow, seems like it's been closed for a long time, so.
Please say very loudly, it's not part of the city, it's the waterworks.
Well, it is the water.
It's part of the city, but, yeah.
Yeah. So I think probably, you know, they're hoping that early September, you know, it will be through there. You know, certainly we look at our concert Saturday night, the attendance was pretty low because other things are always going on, but the
Yeah.
street is closed, the one-way sign is up, and I saw some older people carrying their chairs down from, they must have parked up on Delaware and carried them. So, you know, everything affects everything, but we're hoping their construction is coming right along. I know he said they're ordering new awnings, and those will be a little bit in the process, and so the awnings will go over the new part, and a new awning that all coordinates are the same for the existing building.
Are they just gonna sell product, or are they also gonna have food, or do you know?
They'll have a demonstration kitchen, so there'll be classes as well.
Oh,
So that'll
that's
be
very
fun.
cool.
Yeah.
It's a fun place to go in.
Yep.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
always-
even if
It
you
is
don't
fun,
cook, you
yeah.
get
Yeah,
excited
go in
about
there.
it.
It's fun.
Look
Yeah.
at, you know, like.
I don't, I love looking at the gadgets. Yeah,
Buy
it's
some
like,
things you
what
don't
is that?
need.
The
It's fun.
coffees that she has, yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
So,
Looking forward
you
to
know, just, you know, it's great when expansions happen. You know, the Kansas Country Store, when they expanded a few years back, that's an amazing expansion. And, you know, we're still looking at new entrepreneurs coming in downtown, and You know, some of the ideas are like, wow, that could be pretty cool, or,
Yeah,
we'll
with the new
see.
hotels, then the planning for that area is definitely an entertainment and eating district with the new, especially with the new hotels opening, with the one that's already
Mhm.
open and the other one coming open, so.
Well, it's kind of a chicken and egg as well, because, you know, we talk to merchants all the time about reinventing hours so that they're open later. Maybe they open later in the morning, so they're open for people that can work, people that are staying downtown. Some have taken heed to that, and they have some really great hours, but we still have some hobby businesses downtown. We still have some that have shorter hours, and,
That's always been a struggle.
you know, so we would love it if there was a lot of nightlife going on and a lot of businesses open later. All we can do is keep plugging on that one and hope that, you know, it's a dedication to stay open later for months, a year, longer. And it's a marketing also with the hotels and the folks that are coming in, so they know that they can come down and have a great experience, and,
Right.
you know, so it's,
Yeah. I think what's helpful is, especially like First Taste in that, they're getting like live music in there, you know, when they can, that helps. And I know sometimes it's hard, because we've walked into a place sometimes and, you know, we're it,
Yeah,
you know,
nobody's
and they're
there.
happy, so happy to
They don't
see
wanna
us in
stay open
that.
if nobody's there.
Yeah,
if
and
there's more people downtown, maybe
that
they
is
will
such a
stay
hard
open
thing,
longer.
but yeah, I just, you know, I go visit just to be encouraging, and I just want them to keep plugging away at it, because I think it'll get there, especially as, you know, the hotel activity increases. But it's an investment. It's like
and we,
anything, it's an
you know,
investment.
consistently take things to, Michelle at the Stove Lofts and, at, the Abernathy Lofts as well, to encourage the residents that live there. They're purchasing a lot of their home goods from downtown businesses and coming around, but it's just a consistent, marketing of everything that's downtown. But it's certainly if anybody was out last Saturday morning, it was extremely busy downtown with
It was,
the
yeah,
markets.
it was
And
great.
we had, our sidewalk sales were going on, and our concert was in the
Summer concert,
evening.
that evening.
Yeah.
No, that was an action-packed day there. That was it was really busy.
You know, I think the other thing I just kind of touched on that, Wendy already touched on, but it was just, for me, re-engaging with the transition folks up on the fort and the Soldier for Life program for these business owners downtown that have told us that they're selling their businesses. It's something we put on the website,
Right.
but starting to engage these retiring or separating military who want to stay in the area, but they're not sure what kind of business they want to start. And, you know, these are businesses that are already in operation where they can make, you know, they can make a deal to, and most of the business owners I've talked to are like, yeah, I'd take a contract over 2 years, you know, and stay on as a consultant or something like that, because they know how hard it is to start a business. And they could use a little income, but they just don't want the 24/7. So that's kind of a new thing, kind of, it's kind of below the radar that we don't really see happening, but that we're doing as a board.
We also took advantage of the CVB grant and were awarded $4,000, and so Main Street will put $5,000 in that. We have a campaign starting with Cox Media in Omaha, and that starts in July, about the 15th. So they will be come to downtown Leavenworth and spend some time. There'll be the rolling banners will be on their Weather Channel as well there. We are finalizing our communication and contact with Spectrum, which was Time Warner, and we will have advertising around July 15th to August 15th, and we will focus on Fort Leavenworth and the north area, and then we will be back on September and October and focusing on the entire Johnson County area.
Okay.
So those promotions, and if you've seen our video that we utilize with Time Warner, that's the ad that we're running. We're looking at shooting another video, possibly for springtime, but we've gotten still comments from the sales staff at Cox that whoever did our video did a great job, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's a fun one.
And they show them at good times in the evening. I mean, I've seen them on like primetime television, on different cable news, even like CNN or something like that when you're watching news. I mean, when people are more apt to be home watching TV. So that was really nice, pleasant surprise, and that it wasn't like the wee hours of the morning, or the crack of dawn. It was actually at high, peak time television watching. So I was really impressed with that. So that's improved a lot. Yeah.
Okay, I don't have any other questions. You?
Do you need a figure? You asked,
No,
somebody
I
asked
just
for a
wanted to
figure?
Well, usually you come and ask us for money, so we need to know how much you're asking for.
So we're asking for the 31, and I don't remember the change. 127.
Right.
40 would be wonderful. Anything above that?
Just round that up for you there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a percentage, I think, when we were defunded, and then I think when Steve Jack came in, he got his funding back, and then that 31 was the remainder of that amount. So that's where that came from. We didn't come up with that amount. But anyway,
Okay.
yep. It's
Thank you.
busy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hard work for our community and for coming today.
It's busy office, I'll tell you that.
Okay, next item on the agenda, Leavenworth Police Department.
Madam Mayor, Commissioner, I apologize. Our deputy chief is remaining behind today at the station to continue coordinating activities.
Okay.
He might normally be with me, but today, for obvious reasons, he's not. In a generic sense, in terms of the police department's budget through the administration, operations, and animal control, the instructions we gave, that we got from the city manager, staff, and finance was essentially level up those items if you felt like you needed a little additional funding. We also did a little rearranging from year to year when there are certain things that we don't spend enough, we need other areas, we kind of make those adjustments. So in terms of the budget, that was our essential approach. Starting with the administration, probably the most significant thing you might see is an increase in overtime in that particular area. I'll talk a little later in my presentation about some reorganization we did within the police department. And so we had a police officer that is a sergeant moved from the operations section over to the administration section. And he has some operational overtime that takes place, and so that accounts for that significant change in that particular line item. We made some, and that was somewhere in the neighborhood of about $7,500, if I see that correctly. In terms of professional services, you'll see a fairly significant change in $66.99. Justice Center security costs came under well allotted that we spent from the previous year. That security station up there changes almost year to year in terms of what they have to do, and you might recall that the state statute changed where you had to have armed security for it to meet the statute about all that, so that's a little bit different. But ultimately, when the sheriff's decision was redone, it was actually a little less expensive for everybody in the building, so it actually was beneficial to us. But that money, you could see that line item kind of went down a little bit. The rest of them are fairly small. Those for the administrative part of the budget seem to be the most significant changes, and unless there's questions, I can move on to the operations.
You'll see a big increase in IT service, and I explained that a little bit last night with
Yes.
It's essentially all cloud-based items.
For the operations, perhaps one of the bigger changes in 5799 was other services. There is no more revenue being produced from the COPS grant from the federal government that expired at some point last year. I think it was August. If you might recall, we had a 3-year grant from the federal government to put a school resource officer at Warren Middle School.
Yes.
And then at some point, the district decided they would not want to retain that afterwards. And so that revenue is gone, and so that's the reduction there from that you see. The other,
The school did hire an SRO on their own nickel, though, did they not?
sir, I would prefer you say security staff.
Yeah, okay.
Security
Yeah.
staff. They did hire a person. I've talked with Ms. Sloan. They did, and they're enough to do that. In terms of a significant addition that I've proposed and would ask to be added to the operational section would be 6104. We've identified that as what I would call specialty pay. One of the elements that we have been trying to do at the Leavenworth Police Department, much like our colleagues across the country and in the area, is to focus on retention efforts for police officers, creating incentives in a variety of ways, financial being one of them, so that they will think about staying longer and being more committed to the police department. In a nutshell, specialty pay is that we've identified a few positions within the police department that are different and require significantly more training and skill set than the average police officer position. I would use either the police canine position or the police polygraph examiner position as a prime example of that. In order to be selected for that, you have to, there's a selection process. The school to attend for example, the canine position is a 6-week-long school in North Carolina. In addition to that, you have to have these really structured training schedules. It takes a tremendous commitment and it takes a tremendous set of skills different than a normal police officer who might occupy a patrol district and handle calls for service. And so we feel like a way to create incentive for those officers is to recognize that and pay them a monthly stipend in their paycheck. For example, $100 a month would be, we've identified it as specialty pay. That would be the stipend. And that is a financial incentive that we are proposing that might additionally recognize skill sets that are above norm and might create a more incentive for the officers to stay. Some of our officers do more than one of those specialty assignments. For example, canine officer and a member of the SWAT team. And so if they do more than one, it would be $100 for the first one and then $50 for the second one, but no more than that. We do have a few that do 3 or 4 things, and so as an agency our size, that's not uncommon to do. So I propose that we add that as an incentive part of the process, and that's a.
What line item did you say, 6104?
Turn 2 more pages, it's in police operations. You're one too far.
It's like 6105.
You got
6105.
I'm sorry,
okay.
I had 4.
Okay, that's,
The first page of the police operations budget.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh, specialist, okay, yeah.
Some other things, 6303, a little bit of increased cost in meals. We're trying to create some incentive by doing a little bit more training, which requires a little bit of travel and that sort of thing, reimbursement and that sort of thing. You will see in 6899 other maintenance and equipment. If you might recall, about 2.5 or 3 years ago, we did a fairly significant upgrade in our communications, the radios citywide. And so the radio batteries last about 2 years. They're about $80 to $100 a piece to replace. And so this is a maintenance item that that everybody who has radios in the city we have been talking about adding. We did a great deal of discussion about a maintenance agreement with a radio company, and none of us feel like there's value to that, simply because you pay a monthly stipend, and then we also had a tendency to get nickeled and dimed to death.
Right.
Like, why are we paying you $450 a month to work on our radios when you come out it's still X, Y, or Z? And so for the foreseeable future, we want to evaluate whether or not it's more costly to just pay on a per repair unit. Those things are, for a lack of a better word, are almost a computer now. The only thing that we need maintenance on are the batteries. We have to buy those periodically. Those are not something we can repair. You just have to buy those every couple of years. Anytime we've had an issue with the radios, the state fixes them. It's a computer, plug it into a computer and fix it that way, much like a laptop or something. So we feel like going forward, that's a better approach. So you might see that as the city departments come through here, a little bit more money for batteries, just as a maintenance thing, because those things are getting 2 or 3 years old now.
Okay.
Gasoline, we reduced that just a tiny bit, just to sort of reflect the gas prices are kind of up and down. The PD summer camp, folks, I just be honest with you, that just keeps getting more and more popular every year. We get a lot of candidates. It's very popular. we try to keep doing a few more things to keep it interesting, and so it's just a little bit more expensive now. It used to be about $5,000. It's creeping up on closer to $7,500. We feel like adding a little bit of money there is going to help. It's really a popular program. There's a lot of interest in that. So in terms of that, that essentially takes care of the sort of operational stuff. Unless you might have any questions, I might turn my attention to the additional positions or restructuring.
Yeah, just a general budgeting question here. There are so many items, there are several items on here that have not had anything in them for the last 3 years, Ruby, and I just wondered why they are even listed in here.
If they have any actuals in 2016, we still show those. When they have zeros all the way across, we'll take them out.
Okay, got it. No, dude, that's what I wanted.
You don't keep a real clean office, chief? You spent $9 on janitorial supplies in the last 3 years.
Yeah, it's like these little things, I don't even, I don't even
At this
know why
point, we're
that's on
almost
there.
vacuuming ourselves. We're not satisfied with the janitorial service.
Okay,
I think we all pay for that out of one, and it's admin. I think.
Okay.
okay, got it. Okay.
So as it relates to the structure of the police department, I think Mr. Kramer talked about that last night, and we'll talk about that today. One of the ways in which we are trying to improve the services and make public safety more effective, we have spent a lot of time in the course of the last 6 months, the senior staff evaluating the police department structure and assignments and staffing. Two things that I hear about most that are concerning to the public are drugs and traffic speeding, okay, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, in an effort to try and listen to that and structure, the past 7 or 8 years have seen a lot of sort of change where we're trying to make do because of budget constraint we have
Right.
all suffered, right?
Right.
And so, we've done a few things through the course of that to try and make do. And so, we wanted to try and reset that and recalibrate this year in advance of the day's hearings and ask for the appropriate funding level that might help us get better at the job of policing. So ultimately, when it comes right down to it, what I would be asking to do, for you to do, would be fund one new police officer position and provide additional funding that would allow me to reclassify existing positions so that they would be in a different assignment in the police department that might be better served to help the community provide better public safety. Starting with 2 new police officer positions being converted to detective positions so that I could assign those 2 police officers to drug investigations. Why I find value in that is a little bit of statistical information. If we look back about 7 or 8 years ago when we had a fully functioned, staffed drug unit, we were making about 200 drug cases per year, okay, on average, give or take.
Okay.
Today, we're doing about 125 or 130 cases. So we're always making drug arrests and doing that. The difference between that 125 or 130 and 200 is that drug unit, okay? And those are the cases by which, we can target. We can do surveillance, undercover operations, confidential informants, work with federal and local, federal and state agencies. We can spend the time necessary to do that, to attack what I describe as those sort of mid-level dealers. The big problem we have in our community right now is meth and prescription pills. I would assign them and sort of prioritize their mission for a while to attack that. Okay?
Correct.
That would be my plan for that. The other position would be to reclassify patrol officer position to a detective position for the purposes of assigning cybercrime investigations. We talked just a tiny bit about that last night. The world that we live in is full of technology, and it's getting quicker and faster, and smartphones and all those stuff. Unfortunately, a side effect of that is crime, and it's difficult to investigate those and help our community without having somebody dedicated to that. We do have occasionally an elderly person fall victim to a local scam. We have the occasional, I tried to sell this to a guy on Craigslist here in town and he didn't pay and it was intentionally done and that sort of thing. And so we do have what I would describe as the need to address that with some resources, to put a person to investigate those kinds of crimes to help our community get better at public safety. Okay? And then the other position, sometime along the way in the last 6 or 7 years, if I recall correctly, we had a traffic sergeant position that got frozen through budget constraints. I'd like that position unfrozen. That would be a first step towards reinitiating our traffic unit. The difference being a fully functioning traffic unit, the last time we had one, is probably about 3,500 to 4,500 citations a year in terms of speeding, DUI, reckless driving, those things that really cause it to be unsafe out there. And so that's what, I have to have someone to supervise that unit. And then through some restructuring, we would ideally have 3 traffic officers, essentially about 20 of the 24 hours in a day covered with a traffic officer to target high-risk driving or investigate those traffic accidents and that kind of thing that we would need. So in terms of the structure and proposals, that is essentially what I would be asking for you to fund. And I find it to be important to the police department to make us a little bit better in public safety. Questions about that or anything? That you'd
Just
like?
more as a general comment, I'm very grateful that you've come up with this plan and we're able to meet that. I know that I have to agree with you, the most complaints I hear a lot from the city are the drugs, which coincide with property crime and property theft. So if we can get a handle on one, we may be able to start lowering the numbers on the other. And of course, traffic. And I think what we're doing here today, helping you out and with not having to, having the funds without having to go any other resources for the funding, I think is an excellent thing too. So, yeah.
If a person, let's say I get a $200 speeding ticket, I'm just guessing, I haven't had one, actually. How much
Would you
of
like
that
me to
come-
work that out?
Yeah. My kids say I drive too slow anyway. Probably. How much of that comes into the city coffers and how much goes, how is that distributed? $200 fine, a traffic fine,
Oh, boy.
or do you know, or does Ruby know?
It is a
When is
fairly
Debbie
large number. It's a fairly large number, most of that. So I think a basic speeding ticket is in about the $126 range. So if
Okay.
you're 10 or 11 miles over, there's a number.
Yeah,
It is about $126. Now, I'm really reaching deep. If the major was here, I'm sure he'd quote
Yeah.
that for me. A large portion of that stays with the city, okay? There are some small portions of that. For example, I think like $1 of it goes to the state, so the state can fund training for judges and things like that. So a fairly large portion stays with the city. To get a specific answer, I would need to do a little work on that, but I'm pretty confident that most of that stays here.
do you have anything on 911 operations in your budget, or is that all handled by the sheriff?
We get an amount of money distributed to us. The last number I looked at was in about the $125,000 range per year, and that comes from the 911 tax on your cell phone, okay? That money gets distributed to us and then goes straight to the county. We all contribute to
Yeah.
one big giant pool, and then, for example, the largest majority of that money is dedicated towards funding our dispatch center, our telecommunications center. So if we needed new computers or new furniture or new work or whatever, it would be designated to fix that.
How do you rate our 911 operations? Pretty good shape?
Yes.
I mean, with technology, et
Oh, yeah.
cetera.
Our region, in the MARC region, Mid-American Regional Council, is really treated very well. They spend a tremendous amount of time studying, staying up on the latest technology. Last year, we added the element of text to 911, which is a fairly new thing, where a person can text 911, and we have had, 50 of those in the last year, where someone needs assistance and they can text. And so that continues to get better. I've never felt like if we needed something, we couldn't get it. I feel very good about that.
Is it as fast to text as to call? Response, or,
Yes.
they're gonna ask information, so you text the information
Right.
too.
So it depends on who's texting.
Right.
Oh,
If my
gotcha.
14-year-old is texting, it's faster. But if
Yeah.
the mayor might be texting, I don't know what your skill set is, ma'am, but perhaps it might not be as fast as my 14-year-old. It's limited in this regard. Someone couldn't text a picture and say, hey, look what's going on, and text it, and that doesn't work yet. It's strictly,
Oh, got it, okay.
it's strictly, I'm at this address, come help me, sort of
Okay.
thing, and then we get after it.
Got it, okay, okay.
You actually have to text in words.
Correct,
Inwards.
at
Okay.
this point. I am certain the technology will evolve, but it's about bandwidth and data transfer and that sort of thing.
Okay,
Texting a picture is that's a
that's
big
interesting
piece
to
of
know that.
information that's gotta move.
It takes
and-
forever.
Right, so, I'm sure it'll get better, but right
Yeah.
now, it's simply,
Your
here's where I am, come help me
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Okay, good.
Yeah, your emergency could get significantly worse before the time it's
Right.
sensitive. Yeah. My question was, as part of your cyber crime that you want to take on is the cyber bullying and for kids on that. How do you see that working?
So we have probably a better example of cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is sort of like a generic term. I'm gonna, on Facebook, call you a name is not a crime, okay, but that sort of counts as cyberbullying. But I'm gonna come over and shoot you, I'm gonna come over and do something like that. So in terms of our ability to deal with that, particularly at the youth level, we struggle because it's a lot, it happens a lot. So in terms of that, that's the way that I would sort of envision part of that person's assignment is helping us deal with that. Part of it is an educational sort of learning curve. Technology just moves so fast that if you don't have somebody that spends some time with it, it's a perishable skill. It gets to the point where we struggle sometimes. An officer knows to take the report, but beyond that, it kind of, there's things like the ability to track IP addresses
Right.
and that sort of thing, and that is, that's a perishable skill that needs some devotion, and so that's part of how I would think about assigning that position.
Okay, and is there a technology investment that you're looking down the road maybe for that too?
I'm 100% certain that there is some sort of cyber crimes association, right? And there's always some sort of evidence association or that sort of thing. So I would very much anticipate a membership of that. And then, I'll be honest with you, Commissioner Weekly, we might not know exactly what we don't know yet with this. It's a little
Yeah.
bit new for us. I would envision some capital cost of computer equipment, which
Okay.
we would have the ability to do, I think, in our operational budget. That's not terribly expensive.
Yeah.
We would be able to do that. And then maybe some software stuff as we
Right.
move forward that would help, do some investigative work. That's kind of how I see those associated
Okay,
costs.
yeah, and I just kind of reached out and did some reading, what other communities are doing, and it's pretty, I think, pretty widespread because it's pretty new, and then what their budget and resources always, will allow on that, but, yeah, I'll just maybe ask more questions as we go along down that road.
Questions about
No.
that? Okay, animal control. So if you might recall, in the last year or so, we've made some sort of structural changes where we changed the fee structure
Right.
in terms of sort of all-inclusive. My instructions to the staff is do as best you can to get as close as you can to sort of revenue neutral, whatever we spend, let's make sure we're trying to take in. I think we're in pretty good shape in that regard, although it's only really 1 year of data, so I'm hoping in the next year or so we get a little bit better, clearer picture.
How's that working with the public? Is everything, is that better?
Yeah, I think that the adoptions are about where they were before.
Okay.
We do, I look at the global picture, okay?
Sure,
In terms
yeah.
of that, I do pay particular attention sometimes to the numbers, but so for last year, we probably, we ran somewhere in the neighborhood of right over 1,100 animals through the facility through a variety of reasons. We ended up euthanizing like 14 of them, all of
See,
which.
that's a big improvement.
Yeah, all of which were court-ordered, or
Yeah.
the animals were significantly injured or ill, and that is a testament to the staff and the volunteers and
Absolutely,
everybody
great.
doing just yeoman's work down there getting it done, and so in terms of rescues and adoptions and all that stuff, so
Good.
I'm really happy with that progress, and the program seems to be working just about like we expected, revenue neutral, give or take.
Just on a side note, on the 20 dogs that were collected during the 4th of July, how many of them have made it back home?
Most of them, I think, made it back. Most of them
Poor
have made it back.
babies. Poor
I
babies.
know.
Right, ran off and all that stuff.
Okay.
So then, the other sort of part of the police departments is the seizure and sort of evidence accounts. Those are really just sort of strange in this regard. We get money in, we put it all in the same pool. There are a variety of ways that it can go out, all of which are subject to the financial rules that we normally would do. There's some encumbrances that are included in that. We are still working our way towards electronic police reports, and so we owe the money, we owe some of that portion of the money to the vendor, and when that gets turned on, we'll pay that. We did get approval last year in the CIP for an upgrade of our police department's tactical vehicle. We committed some portion of that. I think off the top of my head, that number is $20,000. It might be 30, I can't remember. The deputy chief's here. But that has been encumbered. And so we are down to about $13,000 that we believe would be available in the event we needed it for something. I did that on purpose. Our friends at the state continue to talk about taking seizure money and using it to balance the budget sheet down there, and so
Right.
I'm leery of that. I have a conference call with the legislative committee on Friday. They're talking about it again in whatever this is called, the legislative session this is called, so
Yeah.
the Kansas Association of Chiefs of Police is paying close attention to that sort of thing, and so I have that number down pretty good,
Okay.
pretty close. I don't, if we have to, I don't want to lose a lot of it, and there's some stuff that we can get that we would need if I have to, in terms of there's other monies in there, so for example, if we make a seizure on evidence, and the judge says, hey, you guys need to give that back, or that gets distributed differently, that comes through court order, and then we would make the request through finance, and all that stuff is documented through the financial procedures.
Sure.
So in terms of that, that's where we are with that. Those numbers that you see on there, you look at, but it's not a very accurate. Sometimes we'll get a case that we started in 2004 or something like that, and then ultimately the guy has finally paid his tax warrant 10 years later, and there'll be a $3,000 deposit. So it's really hard to predict with any accuracy what money might come in and
Right.
go out.
Right,
So
that makes sense.
Okay.
I think that's it for me, unless there are other questions.
Any other questions? No?
Commissioner Preisinger, I think that you either owe, if I recall correctly, a steak dinner or a new car to Leona Housel, who wrote a littering ticket last year. The person was fined and cited and fined $124 in March. So
Great,
I don't know
great.
where
Well,
we're at. Oh, was it a car, a dinner, or something?
I've got some Burger King.
The car, I'm thinking the car, yeah.
Good.
I still have
I'll
a
have to look at the
half-inch
tapes.
sandwich.
Right,
Yeah.
and see where we ended that with.
Yeah.
Catch the perpetrator in the act.
Caught the perpetrator in the act, and he was $124.
Good.
Good.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Okay, the next, thank you, sir. Thank you, Chief. Next item on the agenda is Leavenworth Library.
I'll kick this off a little bit. In the cover letter to the budget, it explains the library, sort of how it works, again, just for a refresher for whoever may be watching or in the audience. We have a pass-through millage for the library. It's set by ordinance at 3.75 mils for operations. And then there's a fluctuating mill levy that pays for the employee benefits fund at the library. That kind of goes up and down. So some years you may levy an amount, and then their employee benefits, for whatever reason, turnover, somebody elects to not take health coverage, whatever, maybe may come in under,
Right.
so but that money stays with the library. So they always sort of operate with a balance in that employee benefits fund. I would note that this year, I will concede that keeping the millage rate the same on the employee benefits fund, if they, worst case scenario, if they meet their full budgeted amount for employee benefits fund, it will require the use of all of their fund balance. Now, that fund doesn't need to have a fund balance, but what it would require next year is if they use their entire fund balance, we would have to increase that employee benefits fund levy to meet their costs.
Got it.
I think, and the library can speak for themselves, I think there's a little bit of apprehension about having to use all of that fund, and then, at that point, you'd have to rely on that millage increase coming up the following year. But that's what's in the budget right now, keeping the employee benefits fund mill the same, and requiring probably the use of their fund balance in their employee benefits fund. So from there, I'll let David take it away.
Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to tell you that the public likes your library. The uses is up. We've got a very progressive director. Libraries changed. They're a heck of a lot different than when I used to go there.
Mhm.
I see fewer and fewer books, which somewhat concerns me, but I see more and more people in the library. And we get a lot of offline use as well. So what I'd like to tell you is the citizens appreciate the service that that library provides, and we appreciate the support that we receive from the city council. What I know about budgets kind of fits on that dot right there on that page. Valerie knows a lot more about it. Paul hit the nail on the head. The real issue here is our employee benefits fund summary, and I'd like to turn it over to Valerie to kind of give you a little more background on it and why it's an issue and why we're bringing it to you this year.
Okay, well, on the second page of the summary, yes, obviously, the director's discussion of why it's important that the employee benefits fund levy is set at $200,000. Well, the levy is set to bring in $200,000 in 2018, knowing the delinquency will only receive most likely $194,000. In 2017, we plan on using almost $20,000 of the existing surplus. And if what is brought in is at the $194,000, that means that the remaining surplus of $30,000 will be used in 2018. And then 2019 would obviously start another discussion, but the main thing is that the employee benefits fund is an important aspect of the library's budget and kept separate from the general fund.
Can the reserve in the employee benefits fund be used for anything else other than employee benefits?
No, it is only to be used for
So,
employee benefits.
if you'd spend that reserve down to zero this year, let's say you've done your pro forma here, you've got that, you're gonna bring in 194, and you've got 30 surplus, 224. With 224, that would zero you out for next year, if in fact you used all of it.
Yes,
That's correct.
yes.
So, are you here recommending or asking for a mill increase to bolster that a little bit?
We're just asking for the mill increase to be very minimal, regarding that in 2017, it was at 191 was what was budgeted for the mill levy, and obviously taking in the delinquency, it was $6,000 less than that. So we're only asking for a $9,000 increase in the mill levy for 2018, so that the expectation is to bring 200,000 in, knowing you'll only actually collect 194.
But if you did, let's say we do collect 194 and you use your surplus,
Mhm.
you have 224. 224 will take care of your.
Right, the expected
So it's
cost
not
for
an
2018.
it's not an emergency fund that you needed in case
No,
windows break or air
No.
conditioning goes out.
no.
So,
Please don't say that, right?
I know. We get those
We just
bills
put it
right on
in.
it too. So my question or my counterpoint to you is, based on this, there's no need to increase the mill levy at this point. At next year, possibly, depending on what it is, but right now, there is enough funds. Since that's the only use of that, of your surplus, is for employee benefits, whether you build it up to $50,000 or it's zeroed, that's the only use for it, and according to your pro forma, you've got enough to cover you for next year. Next year, we may have to look at doing it. This will run you through 2018. So 12 months from now, you'll come to us and, you'll kind of have an idea of saying, we don't have enough and we might have to raise it, but I don't see any reason to raise it now, since it's not an emergency fund for unforeseen expenses.
No, the only,
Unless I'm missing
yeah.
the argument here.
Well, no, the only thing that might come into play is if their health insurance premiums has a much more increase than 10%. I mean, there would be, that's the most volatile thing maybe that you have in your benefits really right now, is health, like everyone else
Well,
has.
their health insurance is our health insurance.
Yeah.
It could come in at 8, too.
Yeah, which is,
that's
like I'm
normally
saying,
what
so, and I'm not saying change it, but, and then, and do a mill levy increase, but you've got that 30,000 there as, if the 10% increase is a bad guess.
Right.
And then if it's a good guess and it's less than that, then that just, makes the cushion a little bit softer.
Exactly.
Now, were you
I
actually
agree.
asking for a mill increase, or were you preparing us for a mill increase?
It sounds like, well, it sounds like you're being prepared for next year.
Right, in 2018,
In
we needs to
18.
be
Yeah,
just a very
yeah.
slight increase, to make sure that with the existing surplus at the end of 17, we use all of that up at the end of 18 with that slight increase in 2018. It's very minimal. the expectation is to continue to use the surplus. That was,
Any idea when we're gonna get the exact price on our insurance costs?
It's gonna be farther down the road. I think we're trending well. I met with Lana this morning with some updates. You start here and here,
Right.
and we're
Yeah.
here.
I know
mean,
she's
it's-
been very successful the last
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
4 or 5, 6
yeah.
years.
You know, all I can share is, their first number wasn't all that bad, and we're working that down to our target number. So I'm confident that we'll come in at our number.
Okay.
Okay.
We may have to look at potentially a slight tweak to our deductible levels or to our prescription plan. Those would be the two small adjustments we'd have to make in short of a plan design change, but we would do something that would keep it at 10% and below.
Okay.
Well, I'd just like to state, I fully understand the position the city's in, and I read the Leavenworth Times. And, you know, I have over the past years represented county commissions that swore by flat levies and kept it that way. But I would ask that you favorably consider this increase. It, I think forestalls the necessity of coming back next year and asking for that increase.
But you're asking for it this year rather than next year. I mean, that's.
As a matter of fact,
Yeah, no, and I understand your argument, but I don't know that it merits the increase right now. Obviously, I want these people to have their employee benefits, but just looking for a cushion that only can be used for that, and it's not an emergency fund for, as I said, HVAC or windows or anything like that, go into that. And the money is there now. I see your 2017 budget and 2018 budget. Do you have actuals for like from 15, 16, 17? 2017 budget was $169,000 for employee benefits. Now you're saying $174,000 for 2018. What was your actual? What was your budgeted in 2016? What was your actual?
for 2016.
Yeah.
The employee benefits. Would be, would not include, well, yes, it would include that as well. Budgeted was $168,253.
What was actual?
Actual was $154,770.
Okay,
I may be
2000,
missing.
that was 2016, yeah.
I need to make sure that I have everything, all the numbers in there, sorry. So I'm not telling you incorrectly.
Well, there was something too about you were down a number of an employee, wasn't that right? Or am I
In
wrong?
2016, yes, and I didn't also include,
And that's
there's
why it
actually
was
need to
less
add
than
two numbers
before.
together. It should
Is
be
that correct?
196,000, or sorry, 2016 budgeted should have been, I'm not the best at doing math on the fly here, a little over $200,000, but
Was
actually.
budgeted in 2016?
Yes, you would include health insurance, capers, federal, and unemployment taxes.
No, I'm talking just library employee benefits, 2017 budget is $169,308. What was that budgeted, that line item in 2016, and what was actual
$168,253,
versus 154 actual?
yes.
Okay, in 2017 budgeted 169,308. What are you anticipating your actual to be based on for 6 months? And I know that's a bit of a
6 months?
swag, but
Sure. This is all revenue. As of June 30th. Sorry. It would be percentage of the budget spent this year so far.
or 50%, yeah, just double it, I guess, through
Right.
actuals.
benefits would be spent at just slightly under 50%. We're at 44% and 46%.
You're
Of the two.
46% of the 169,000.
Yes.
46, did you say?
46.17.
Well, we have it separated, health insurance, capers, then federal and unemployment taxes. So if you add those together, it would be
What are you looking at?
I meant
45%.
library employee benefits, but we're,
Under what? Under
Uh,
what category? Administration?
ad valorem taxes.
Page 5 of the letter.
Of my letter,
Page
of the
five,
five,
C.
page 5 of my letter.
Roman numeral 5. Yeah. But that, the 169,308 on the budget, maybe you can help me review, that is raised from the mill levy,
Yes,
the .844 mills.
yes.
And so you're at, thus far, I'm sorry, ma'am, what numbers did you give me through 6 months?
46.
Well, it'd be 45%, because you have
45%
45%
of a
of the health insurance,
169,308.
capers, and then taxes is 46%.
So, based on that,
But I'm not adding this.
you know, if we double that, you're gonna come
So it
in
should be
probably
173.
$7,000 or $8,000 under budget.
No, sorry.
Am I missing something?
I just want to make sure I've done everything correctly on the math. 228, sorry. Budgeted for 2016. I just want to make sure I give you the correct numbers. Okay, so 2016, we budgeted $200,890.
Okay, and actual?
The actual spent would have been minus 23,000.
177,000 approximately?
Yeah, approximately 177,000 was actually spent.
Okay, on the budget.
We also had an employee who, we had a number of employee changes during that time, so you have large chunks of the months that weren't, no salary was paid.
Yeah, and you have that in
And there's
any
no
organization.
papers that need- yes,
Yeah,
yes.
2 or 3 weeks, you don't have employees.
Sure.
But the budget for 2016 is 200,890, while we
Yes.
show the budget for 2017 be 169.
No, sorry, it should be 228,000 for 2017. Sorry, I was
Okay,
not
and
adding
what's
the-
this 169,000 that I see on page 5?
That's what the millage that we levy generates.
Okay, and what you're talking about, your employee benefits covers what?
It covers health insurance.
Well,
capers.
health insurance, we should take that out of this millage, right?
No,
No.
it comes out of that. That's where they pay their portion of.
Okay,
that's what
okay.
it's-
So,
Health insurance,
health insurance, go,
capers,
capers,
federal taxes and unemployment.
federal tax and social security, et cetera.
Yes.
Okay. And if we keep the mill levy flat as it is right now, that'll raise 174,000, call it 175,000. And then you have 30,000 left in your budget, 30, a surplus. So that'd take about 205, and you're saying you need 224?
I think that's because of the delinquency.
Right, the delinquency, whereas
Yeah,
you don't bring in, like this year, the tax revenue actually collected was 185, well, for 2017, it will be 185,270, which is 6,000 less than what the mill levy states would be given to
It's a
the
2%,
library.
2 to 3%, 3% is
Delinquency.
a common delinquency number. You
So-
collect 97% of that.
The numbers here reflect that delinquency rather than the actual,
well, I'm thinking these two numbers, what you're saying, what we have here, aren't matching. You said that 2017 mill levy will bring in how much?
191,000 was budgeted
191,000.
for libraries EBF in
That's
fiscal
the
year
spending
2017.
authority. What happens with the revenues? When you look at what the ad valorem taxes are,
Right.
when you budget spending authority, there's also motor vehicle allowances, motor vehicle taxes, recreational vehicle taxes. Those things come into the taxing entities too. And what happens is, the state uses those anticipated funds to reduce the actual amount of mill levy or dollars that are generated by the mill. So this is the ad valorem property tax portion, but there's also motor vehicle taxes and recreational vehicle taxes included in that. If I recall correctly, the 2017 spending authority for the employee benefit fund was $191,000. So the mills generated, plus the motor vehicle taxes, would compensate for that $191,000.
So ad valorem 2017 brings in 169, motor vehicle, et cetera, brought in 22,000. The additional
Yeah, about
fund.
25,000.
Okay, call it that. For 2018, ad valorem brings in 175, and motor vehicle, et cetera, bring in another, call it 22. And so that takes it to 197 plus 30, they're at 227. I mean, yes, they're close to, I mean, they have a little bit of a surplus, but all the employee benefits will be able to be met without any increase. Now, I understand what you're asking for. You're asking for a cushion, but I don't see the cushion being needed, besides just sits there fallow because you can't use it for anything else. And I don't see that you'll have a problem meeting your employee benefits for 2018. You're going to take your surplus down to, a single digits, thousands, as opposed to 30 that you have now. Then, the next year, I think, is the time to look at a potential mill increase on it. I don't see the need for it this year. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yes, I
I just, because I think you're flush right now.
So you're saying not in 2018, you're saying in 2019?
My recommendation
is
would
when
be, my argument would be that, obviously it's up to the commission here to make that determination. But you can shoot holes in my argument here. I'm just looking at the pure math of it.
Yeah, as devil's advocate, and I can see as the director of this, what they run the risk as now in the future, because there's no cushion there. Every year, they're gonna come in and maybe it's gonna be a little mill increase or it's gonna drop or whatever, but when they're gonna need that mill increase, and if you start doing that over consecutive years, it looks like they're constantly coming and asking for money. So it's the appearance of they're not staying within their budget. I think the director, if I were the director, I'd have those concerns in my head too, yeah.
Well, I still see where they'd be coming in yearly if you give them enough mill increase to cover a 6,000. Because eventually it's going to get caught up again.
Yeah, it is,
So-
but it's not 3 years in a row we've asked for an increase. To the outside citizen looking in, it's like, is the library staying within its budget? Is it being a good, user of my tax dollars? And if you're consecutive years of increases in taxes requested, it doesn't feel like that to the citizen, and I think that's where maybe the concerns are there, and I think they're just laying that out on the table.
I apologize for interrupting. I think the policy decision of the director was ask for it now and then not have to come back
Yeah.
every year in the future for incremental increases. And I understand, it's a policy matter.
Yeah.
It's something we're going to have to debate.
Yeah, I think the history shows that you make an adjustment, and then you almost never, and history bears this out at the city level too, you almost never hit your top maximum number for benefits because of turnover, because of people leaving. It happens everywhere all the time. So if you recalibrate, then you start picking up little surpluses, and then you recalibrate and you pick up little surpluses.
Yeah.
That's the way I would look at it. And I try to convey to the director that if you do, worst case scenario, if you do use it all, then it's a perfectly legitimate request to come back next year and ask for the increase that takes you to absolute full funding.
Right.
And then hope to build that surplus up again.
But what
So,
do you
but
do
it is a commission decision.
In the meantime, when you run out of money in November and you still have to, you have the issue of if you're cutting it that tight, what happens now when the surplus is gone and there is no money in the employee benefit fund, and we still need to pay our employees their benefits?
I
Then
think
you
the
have an
numbers that
issue
we
where
have
that's
would take it to the
Yeah,
end of
this
the year.
will
but-
take you through 18.
That's what it looks like on here, on your report.
with it being funded at 200,000, knowing the delinquency will make it 194.
Say that again.
And the employee benefit should be funded at 200,000, knowing that the actual money taken in will most likely be 194,000. That's the discussion, is that the ask is for 200,000, knowing that you'll only actually bring in 194,000. You apply the surplus of 30,000 that is existing for 2018, you then are right at what the employee benefits is expected to cost the library at 224,000.
What did your employee benefit cost you in 2017? Or we're estimating 2017 to be what we write again?
2017 would be actual collections would be at 185,000.
185,000, what you
What was-
project cost to be.
No, 185,000 is what the projected actual money collected is at. What was set for the employee benefit mill levy for the library was set at 191,000. But the collection is only 185,000, which puts the library at using almost 20,000 of the existing surplus to equal the 2017 expected cost of employee benefits at 235,000.
Yeah, you're dropping from 50,000 down to 30,000 approximately, am I correct?
Right.
Okay. So 2017, are you still estimating 204,000 to be your total employee benefits?
204,500, yes.
And what did we say we used? I know it's 46 per, we're 204,500 times, you said 46%.
Is where we're currently at, yes.
So, so you've spent 94,000 thus far.
Right.
And do you think that you're gonna, for the next 6 months, you're gonna spend 110,000 or another 94,000?
Well, we had one employee who was not at the library for approximately, had one position open for approximately 2 months at the beginning and the spring. So you have to counter that that's a position that's now been filled that will then continue to be funded through the end of the year. So that would mean that potentially you have, that would be where that is made
So
up.
were you fully staffed in June?
Yes, we are fully staffed in June.
What was your employee benefits for June?
For June, it would be 12, 4, it would be $17,100 approximately.
Okay, if you're at 17,100, your annual times 12 would be 205,000. But you had a couple months open and you're fully staffed and through the end of the year.
If you use that number, it does equal what was expected
What,
in
Yeah.
2017.
17,100, we said? for-
Yeah. And if you-
Times 6 plus 94,000. I show you only using 196,600 if you stay fully staffed the rest of the year, because you use 94 through the first 6 months. If you stay fully staffed for the next 6 months, you're only going to use 102. That takes you to 196, what your actual is going to be, rather than 204. I know I'm really getting in the weeds here. I'm not fighting you. I'm just making the argument. I don't think it's required right now, because I don't think you're going to take it to 0. You're not going to hit 204 this year because it's impossible. If you're fully staffed now, and you don't even have one employee leave between now and the end of the year.
We will be
max you
adding
can-
another employee next year, and that is
Next year?
stated on, in
Okay.
2018, we will be adding another employee, which is stated under the salary statement, a part-time employee, which would be eligible for all of the benefits.
Okay. So I say your surplus right now, which is at $50,000, is gonna drop to 38,000 as opposed to 30,000, based on actuals that you have this year, which both, you're fully staffed through the end of the year, you're gonna spend 196,600, that's if no one quits. So your surplus then becomes 38,000 then of 17 that you'll carry over into 18. We probably should move on, but I'm just getting the feeling that there might be enough there. I'm not, and I want every employee to have all their benefits, and we've got to make that right, but I also have to make sure that, you know, the taxing is right too. So I understand what you're saying.
Right. May I
Okay.
ask one follow-up
Sure,
question?
sure, ask me.
That then in 2019, when this comes up and there is no surplus, or the surplus is $2,000, then there will have to be an increase to fully fund employee benefits.
Of course there will be,
Mhm.
yeah, and
Sure.
right now, as for next year, I think it is gonna be fully funded for 2018, because your balance is gonna go up to 38, plus, you're gonna get 197, called 200, with motor vehicle, et cetera, and you're gonna lose 3% of that, so 6,000 of that, be 191 plus 38, do the math on that, $230,000. That's what I'm saying, that's the math shows, and obviously things could be different. And if we ad valorem, the appraisals, assessed value goes up another 1.5%, and you get a few shekels that way too. But those are my thoughts, and obviously it's up to the commission, not up to me. I'm just,
Okay.
I acknowledge in the budget letter that should the cost reach the full budgeted amounts, reserves will be exhausted, an increase will be required for 2018, or
Yeah,
for 2019.
right.
yeah.
I mean,
So
that's,
I
that's
completely
the
agree that
trend.
it is right, it is
Yeah,
it's right
yeah.
to the edge.
That's the trend, yeah.
But taking in consideration what the legislator has done, I don't think they will not appreciate any kind of a tax hike.
That's true,
Mm-hmm, yeah.
very true,
So if we can get through a year, it's gonna be easier to sell
exactly.
in 19 or 18, or in 18 or 19.
Well, I'd just like to close, the philosophy behind this was to have assurance that we don't hit a zero. And if we have to come back next year with more than anticipated, you'll see us back here
Yep,
next year.
yeah.
Okay.
And we will not allow it to go negative.
Right.
You know, we are fully supportive of the library, the city's fully supportive of the library. And, you know, once again, it's up to this commission, but as I see it right now, I think you're funded well enough through the end of the year. You're not gonna have a big surplus, but we know what the expenses are gonna be through the end of the year. You can have absolutely no turnover whatsoever. If you have some turnover, you'll have a bigger surplus, obviously.
No, and I know this has been like a long discussion, but when I was on the board, I mean, this did, because I had to wrap my head around, because I've never seen a benefit fund that had a reserve, because it's usually funded,
Dead on.
you know, yeah, dead on, or, and the costs fall where the costs fall, and it either rises or lowers depending on what happens with your benefits and your staffing and stuff like that. So it took a lot for me to kind of like, this is an unusual situation to do this. And I can see your comfort level with it, but, but we argued, how much of a surplus do you feel you really need? And it is whittling down, and I know that's a very uncomfortable thing. But especially for the size of the budget, having a $20,000 or $30,000 surplus in there is not over the top, given the size of your overall budget. When I saw 50 or more in there, then I started like, that's pretty rich there for, it's covering more than just the standard fluctuations. It's a padded, and it's a padding that you can't use for anything else, so it just kind of stays there. So with bad economic times, though, it's slowly whittling down for you on that. But to me, 20 or 30 left in there, so you aren't going negative and you can handle the fluctuations of staffing in that and unpredictable costs, that's a little bit more of a comfort level. And I know we're making you uncomfortable by training that, making you, you know, manage that a little bit more to, you know, to the bottom line on that, so.
What reserve do you want? I mean, is there?
I asked that very
Magic
question,
number.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
is
that, and there was not a definitive answer there.
The way I see it on this one, from a business standpoint, the reserve should be, I mean, it sounds silly, $50, because it's not for unanticipated expenses. It's not for, you know, a storm comes through or something like that. That's where you need reserves for, uh-oh, this happened, tornado came through, we have nothing. This is, I mean, you just lock it on to what it is. And, I mean, the numbers will show that. There's nothing unanticipated there. You know, Social Security rates aren't going up, we know that. You pay 6.2% Social Security, 1.45 Medicare. You know, your unemployment rates probably, our workers' comp or unemployment 0.2%. I mean, that's fixed. So this is something I think we can lock on and hit the nail on the head. But we probably belabored this enough for time to move on, Mayor.
I think so.
Just tell me
Thank
to
you.
shut up.
Thank you very much. No, I want to hear what everybody has to say, so, yes, we'd like to take 5, definitely. Sorry,
Thank
Chief.
you. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you for allowing us a little break there. We ready to get started again? Okay. Next on the agenda, we have the Leavenworth Fire Department.
Hi, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, appreciate the opportunity. Just like to say a few things. Our operating budget is pretty much the same, except for it has increased. I was just looking over 2018's increase, looks like 4.6%. Our salary and benefits actually currently in 2018 is 97% of our budget. In 2017, it's 94%. So I guess the benefits and stuff, it actually took up most of that increase, which is pretty standard because we're heavily dependent on personnel for what we do. So that's 9% or so is pretty standard for that. And I'd like to say too, that this is kind of a CIP thing, but I'd be remiss not to mention it, but pretty proud this year because we have the nicest fleet probably we've had in the history of the city.
Yeah, the
And
trucks are beautiful.
they're great trucks. They weren't, you know, as far as pay, the cost of them, you know, it's really still conservative compared to what a lot of departments would get. But we got some very nice trucks, operational. Was able to get new equipment, and I appreciate that, the CIP and stuff. So guys have what they need, and that's what we continue to work towards and make sure we got. You know, we had a lot of old stuff out there, equipment stuff, and we got to modernize a lot of stuff, our LDH and stuff, feeder hose and equipment nozzles and stuff. So I really appreciate that, because that and our personnel, and I've been in several departments, and I'm very proud. I really love my guys. I really do. I'm passionate about that. And our motto, if we put it on our trucks, is our family protecting yours. And that is really true what we do. Every one of our guys are out there, and they understand true customer service, helping the citizens, you know, and I strive that. They've changed flat tires for people. We even had it years ago. I think when Lisa was the mayor, we even had a couple guys go on a call. The grandmother got sick with a couple little kids. They got a hold of the parent to come get the child because they transported grandma. And one of my guys, it was several hours, not several hours, but it was probably a good hour. They actually stayed there and actually changed the diapers for one of the kids and everything. So they're just, you know, I'm very proud of my guys. So we got good equipment and good guys. One thing that's kind of hitting us right now is it's just something we have to deal with, which it reverts or kind of correlates with overtime costs a little bit. And we're doing the best we can there. Is unfortunately, and I guess it could be a good thing, but unfortunately, it seems like all of Johnson County right now, and I don't know if it's because of time periods people hire a while, but with a lot of retirements and over the park and Shawnee and just KCK. So we are losing 3. We had 2 guys just retire, but we just lost 3 firefighters to Overland Park, which is just, I'm gonna call the chief down there and yell at him a little bit. But it just, you know, and I can't blame the guys. I don't, you know, that's what they gotta do for their family, a little larger department and stuff, and more opportunities for promotions. So that's what we kind of battle with. That's kind of our big thing is watch that overtime and stuff. we try to fill those spots as quick as we can.
How many employees do you have?
We have, in suppression, in the operation side, we have 49 total, divided over 3 shifts. In total, we have 54, count admin and fire prevention.
Okay.
So that's what
On any given day, how many active on fire suppression on a Saturday or Sunday?
our minimum staffing is 13.
13.
We have 16 assigned per shift, and we have 13 minimum. So, we only allow 2 off on like vacation. And then, so the other vacancies, if we have some people that like military leave, FMLA and all those sort of things. And that's, when we drop below that 13, that's when we hire the overtime.
Okay.
If it's sometimes during the week when the administration is there, something we do just try to help a little bit with that. During the day, if we have somebody that took a half a day off for family sick leave or something, sometimes we'll go ahead and drop the 3 on that quick because we know that we're all there to respond also. But
Do you have any trouble getting firefighters to accept overtime?
it's getting a lot better. At first, when when I first got here, which is almost 4 years ago, we really didn't have an overtime policy. They kind of knew the people at the work, so they always called, well, I'm coming from a background with union stuff, so I think everybody should have that same opportunity. So we kind of put a system in place. And once we started doing that, and then it seems like people get called a lot, and we're having more and more people starting to accept it all the time. So it's more the senior people that seem to jump on it quicker than the younger guys.
Younger guys want the time off, senior guys say, give me the money.
Well, and plus they're getting close to that retirement in their last final 3 years.
Yeah,
based
of
on
course.
that. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, so that's kind of really, we didn't have a whole lot of changes going forward. One of the things that happened in I think in the CIP last year, for this year, we'd asked for some funds to do something to our station radios. We switched a few years ago, we went to the new radio system, 800 megahertz. But our station alerting, what actually sets off the tones, the lights at the station, it didn't work on 800. So we had to maintain the old system, if you will, a repeater, and we had it up on a tower. And we was paying about, we started out paying, we was paying $300 a month rent on that. I kind of complained about it a couple years ago, and they dropped it to $200 a month. And Mike, through some research, found out that the 800 had come up with, and station alerting systems, if you go by it, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. 100,000. Well, 800 megahertz actually come out with a system that would make that they could do that. They could do station alerting without actually buying the station alerting third-party thing. And so we actually, in the CIP last year, what did we spend on that?
Around, I want to say it's 6,000.
About $6,000. So we actually got that in the first part of this year, and so we was able to do away with the repeater repeater rental up on that tower.
Right.
Which kind of worked out because we spend that $200 a month, because also with these new trucks, we actually have we got iPads through a grant, and we have what's called Active 911, which has mapping. So we actually have that on our trucks now, this little iPad, so they get on there, see the address, and see the map, and where the hydrants are and stuff. And with that, you have to have Wi-Fi hotspots, much like the police department has.
Okay.
Well, that's about $45, $46 per car. So that money we save in that $200 a month is going to pay for the Wi-Fi. So we try to look at any little opportunity like that to make changes and stuff. So as far as our runs, just looking at some history, and I look back at 2013 up through today, we're staying pretty consistent. There's really no, 2015 bounced up to 2,500 calls. 2016 was at 2,400. So there's nothing really drastic going up or down on our calls. We're still running around 70% or so on EMS as a percentage of that. As far as our inspections, we're averaging 870 or so between all the companies in fire prevention each year. Our public ed last year, we did 30 events, touched about 1,000 kids. We try to get a head count if we can, on kids and stuff. So. And hydrants, still checking those each year, a third of those. So pretty much everything's staying the same. So that's kind of an overview of everything. Most of our stuff, like I said, is personnel, and then also the CIP because of the capital stuff. So
In suppression, you'll see a capital outlay line item, and that's 19,305, and that was part of what I talked about last night, and that's just the transfer of that from the capital budget to the operating budget.
Right.
And the fire department graciously gave up janitorial services in the recession years, and we've included some funding back in for the fire department admin building to do a little of the janitorial work.
How's number 3 holding up for you?
It's holding up. We're keeping it going, so, we're just kind of on the plan to replace carpet. We've got Station 1 completed, so that'll be on the agenda next year, so.
How many calls approximately did you get at the VA this year? I mean, are you getting a lot of business?
No,
Lot of business
not really.
Not business.
It's actually been down.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it seems like it's went down. I mean, I don't hear it as much.
You only
around.
respond to fire calls or say, you don't,
We'll go to anything that calls on.
Yeah.
you go there on EMS
Yeah.
EMS, yeah.
to VA to?
We
to
get
the-
it.
And
to the
honestly,
doc? Yeah.
you're the first one there,
For-
most
VA.
of the time, yeah. Not just for the VA, I mean on
Just about
most,
yeah,
most
oh, yeah,
calls,
for
yeah.
Oh,
And
You
a
guys,
lot of it-
Yeah.
and which is good, because, people need to be reassured, and,
Yeah, and that's
so
pretty
I'm saying
standard,
your
too.
response time is very good,
Yeah.
Well,
from
they're all
the
EMTs,
perspective
so-
of the person needing that response time.
So,
I know they were the first ones in my house.
Yeah, mine.
Mr. Kramer, I know that we used to get $400,000 or $600,000 from the VA, and they didn't step us back, they cut us down to zero.
To
Cut us
zero,
off at the
right.
zero.
Mhm.
I know we had discussions with our delegation in DC and fell on deaf ears. Is that something that we're gonna resurrect again?
I don't think so. I think
It's just
I think
dead.
it's just
They just said, suck it up.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening either. I mean, other cities, they have VAs, I mean, we didn't get anything, so.
Yeah, in our area, Kansas City, that's 1/10 of 1%.
Right.
Topeka's 0.3%.
Right.
To us, it's like 20%. Yeah, or, I mean, it's a huge amount, so.
Where we step back, because, we're down basically a couple people, so we used to run 4 minimum, but 3s, we run 3 now there,
Yeah.
so that's where we step back at.
Any other questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Well, thank you for your presentation today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next item is Parks and Recreation. Mr. Grant.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. It's good to be here to discuss our operations. I believe I have it in the right order. We'll start with Parks. Of course, Brian Bailey, our Park Superintendent. And just kind of an overview from my perspective. We are currently fully staffed in the full-time staff. Park maintenance consists of 9 full-time, including the superintendent, foreman, park mechanic, and then we also have 6 in the field park technicians. Where we've been struggling is getting seasonal help. We did some modifications. We were able to increase the pay in the seasonal help up to $10. That helped a little bit. We continue to struggle to get seasonal help. Brian and I, we've discussed with Lana, HR director, about potentially rearranging or changing around our job descriptions a little bit to hopefully attract more seasonals towards next year.
Approximately how many seasonals do you have? Or is it vary?
it fluctuates. Right now we have 3.
Okay.
We'd like to have a few more,
Okay,
and it fluctuates with college kids going back to school and so forth.
okay.
You only have 3 seasonal employees, or what?
That's not very
And
many.
it's called lifeguard
Noise.
seasonals or not?
No, this is just parks.
Just parks, okay,
maintenance, yeah.
okay.
What we have is a certain number of hours, or a certain number of dollars, let me rephrase that, towards
Okay.
seasonals.
Okay,
So if we hire college kids who are only gonna work maybe 250 hours, we can hire more of those, because they take away a lot less of the budget, as opposed to if we hire somebody who's gonna be there for a full 1,000 hours.
got it, okay.
So that's why it varies.
Okay,
in that
okay.
Who's your
sense.
competition?
Makes sense.
When you say you're having a tough time getting seasonal?
I think more than anything, and I don't wanna speak for Brian, but I think it's the private sector. Your lawn mowing companies around there seem to be paying a lot more. Like I said, we're working on our position descriptions and our job qualifications. Currently, Currently, you have to be 18 years old, and that has to do with some of the equipment that they operate, whether it's pulling 20-foot trailers or dangerous equipment like chainsaws. That's one of the that's one of the things that and it's, and it has to do with insurance and our insurance carrier, and it makes a lot of sense. That's one of the items we're looking at, rewriting job descriptions where we can reclassify in a couple different classifications of seasonal, where we can maybe bring in 16-year-olds that don't have those obligations, yet they can still run the smaller mowers and obviously weed eaters, blowers,
Okay.
shelters, restrooms, all that kind of stuff. So that's how we're gonna try and combat that going into next year. Of course, we still use the minimum security inmates from LCF. We get anywhere from 2 to 4 of those that come out on a daily basis to help us also.
Good.
They're a lot of help. We couldn't do our jobs without them. Obviously, there's a lot of restrictions that come with them as far as operating vehicles and equipment and stuff like that. The only other comment that I would have regarding the parks budget over time, obviously we've kind of stated a flat line operating budget. Our park maintenance, in which we've got an absolutely fantastic crew. All 9 full-timers are great. We have, to combat the budget, and we've taken on more work ourselves so that we can free up dollars to use elsewhere. For example, we've taken on a few additional mowing areas, some maintenance areas that used to be contracted. We've taken on ourselves, like cleaning the Haymarket restroom, things like that are out there.
Right.
There's you can only do so much when you only have so many people, so many resources, and we're getting to that point where it looks like the future's brighter. So we're happy about that. But you get to a point where you get to busting at the seams. So that's kind of an overview from my point. I'll turn it over to Brian or y'all for any questions or discussion regarding any line item or any items.
How's the Riverfront been doing this year?
We've been doing pretty good. We've been keeping the campsites pretty full. During the week, you have a little bit of a lull in there, but the weekends tend to pick up pretty well. So,
Charlie Jordan is our manager down there. I think he's in his 3rd or 4th year.
Yeah, he does a fantastic
Does a great job.
That's
Great
good.
job.
That's good.
As you know, in the past, we've had some requests, people about staying open in the wintertime. So we tried that 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and it just wasn't enough interest to pay for itself. Then we had some requests last year about, well, you don't open until April. All these people saying, we want to come in March. So we tried opening in March. That didn't do it either. Yeah.
You close October 1st or October 31st?
31st. Yeah, so we're just, back to standard hours out April 1st through October 31st, and I just think, we're done dabbling. And
Yeah.
we tried it.
Yeah.
That's all you
Okay.
can do.
Sure. Doesn't hurt to try something new.
Right. We figure on average, we need to have 3 campsites pretty much filled to cover operations between the manager and the utilities.
What does it cost to the camp? Is it a daily rate, a weekly rate, and a monthly rate, or is it all just?
It's all just daily, yeah.
Daily.
$15. That includes your hookups and everything for a camping pad.
Anybody else have any questions about the parks? Matt? I like seeing what's going on in Havens.
good.
I always say that, so, anyway,
Yeah.
it's great. And the other parks too. I mean, the trails with the trails with the VA and Havens. Is the VA ours, or is that the VA park? That's our park.
It's
too.
ours.
Ray Miller Park.
Yeah,
It's part of Ray Miller Park.
yeah, and up behind the VA ground, right.
Where
Up by the dog
where
park.
that trail is going.
Right.
Okay, got it.
And it's increasing usage at all of them. I was driving through Havens yesterday, and there was 2 carloads of people unloading, just to go walk up through there with their kids and their dogs. That's
I
awesome.
see people there all
Oh,
the
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
I see people sleeping in cars in there too, but mostly it's just people walking.
Yeah, and PD, they do a great job of keeping them, keeping them moving on as best they can.
Good.
Yeah. So.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Where'd you play football, Brian?
Western Michigan University.
I knew you did somewhere.
People say I hired me a body.
They did excellent last year. They were undefeated with Alabama, so hopefully we can do that again this year.
Yeah. I didn't want to stereotype it, and I just figured.
That's all
you
right.
played football.
That's
So
all
that's
right.
just parks. We gotta do all the other stuff.
Right, so I think
Sorry.
recreation
Okay.
is
Yeah,
next.
we're going
Thank
to
you.
recreation.
Of course, Tabor Medill, our recreation program supervisor, and in the recreation budget, the full-time line item, it includes the director, the administrative assistant, and the sports program supervisor. And of course, then the part-time includes all of our field supervisors, gym supervisors that we utilize year-round.
Steve, you back up a little bit on revenue and talk about concessions and what we've been doing and how it's been going.
Sure.
Recreation.
Sure. One of the biggest things on recreation, biggest changes this year is that we've taken over the concessions out at Sports Field. We started with Cody last fall and just kind of started getting our feet wet there, and then we're doing both Cody and Sports Field this summer. Cody's probably not paying for itself. You know, you live and learn on something like that. And I'll turn it over to Tabor. The concessions at Sports Field are going really well. If you have anything to add.
Just that we just went over the $20,000 mark last night, and we're trying to work at about a 15 to 20% profit margin with what we're doing. The biggest thing is it's eliminated the complaints that we received from the past. The biggest complaint we have is we have Mountain Dew instead of having 7-Up. So I can live with that kind of a complaint. Our biggest seller has been
Mountain Dew.
I joke with Steve, our biggest seller is, I don't know if you've seen the beef jerky outlet down at Legends, and I went in and made a deal with them, and beef jerky, or exotic jerky is our biggest seller.
And I am
Oh, that's a
amazed at that. No,
surprise.
when I saw the store, I said, that, you know, because it's not appealing to me.
Right.
And I was like, how could that possibly live? But I am amazed at how popular. My husband set me straight on that.
I've
It's just
helped
like,
it.
yeah, it's just like, you just never know.
But we've tried some things and found some things that didn't work. Tried some things, found that they did work. Steve's been very good about letting me experiment with what we were going to sell. He did put the kibosh on chocolate ants and roasted crickets, so I'm not trying those.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Chocolate crickets.
It's going well though, you know, there's a lot of big learning curve when you take it over doing it yourself, but you know, Tabor's put in a lot of extra hours and effort doing it to get it off the ground, and it seems to be going well, so.
When is baseball season over? Here this week?
Monday.
Monday.
Yeah, and this week we're fighting the heat index side of baseball.
Oh, yeah.
We fight the rainouts in the early, and then this time now we're fighting the temperature. But
And I figured to do
Kansas.
that every year.
Yep, yeah.
Second, third week of July are always hot.
We've been
Right.
very fortunate that last night was the first time that we were actually affected by it. And what we do is we don't change any time schedules. 105 heat index is our temperature that we shoot at. And last night we went 10 minutes into the game time, start time. So we have everybody ready to start. We don't open any gates. That way they can't get in because the kids would get in there and play and do whatever, and it doesn't do us any good to have them playing if we're trying to stop it. So we did go 10 minutes in last night, got a 10-minute late start, but today it's already up to 107, so.
We have had attractive baseball tournaments again out to Sportsfield this year. MSP, Midwest Sports Productions, been out there 2 or 3 times.
We went from 2 to 4 scheduled, and they canceled one because they didn't get enough teams.
Right.
What kind of revenue do those bring in?
About, well, it's $50 per game. So we were like 1,200 one weekend.
1350 or something that first
1350,
weekend.
yeah.
And
Plus concessions.
Plus
Right.
concessions.
Right.
In the gate. Do we get the gate?
Not on those.
On the Legion.
On the
They
Legion
did.
tournament, well, we're hosting the Zone Legion tournament this weekend out there, and that we will collect the gate on and get 100%
Okay.
of the gate on that, as well
But
as
not on-
concession.
Not on the others, yeah.
Right, it's strictly field rental on the
Real
others.
rental, yes, because it's not,
And they, and the contract we have with them, we have them do the maintenance as far as if they want to reline in between fields. So there's no cost from us from a maintenance standpoint out there,
Okay.
which is a big help.
mhm.
Other than that, the only other thing I would add, we tried a new futsal program last winter in the gym down at the community center, and it was very successful. So,
Okay.
you know, pretty good turnout. So we will do that again. This everybody remember what futsal was? I think we told you last year at this time that we were going to try it.
Mhm.
Indoor soccer,
Is it-
basically
It's
on a
like
basketball court.
it's like an
Right, right.
indoor version of a summer sport,
Yeah.
soccer.
For soccer nuts
Soccer,
that
yeah.
live in Kansas that want to play year round.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, so it was successful. I don't remember how many we had, but it was,
We had about 27.
yeah, which was,
Okay.
yeah.
Grades
I
1
bet the
through
rug
6.
burns are terrible.
Do what?
I bet the rug burns are slide on that floor, I bet.
They don't play that hard. Well, it's more based on instructional.
Okay.
And what they did, they had reversible shirts. And so whoever was there, each day or each week, they said, okay, you're red and you're blue today. And that way if a kid missed, we could still go on. So about the first 30 to 40 minutes was instructional, skill development, and then the last 20 minutes were competition. Parents really enjoyed it. So
Okay.
How much do you think you'll get a better expansion, better turnout?
hoping so. I mean, because it was new and people just well, first of all, they don't know what futsal is, but I can't call it indoor soccer because that offends the futsal people. And
Yeah, I guess.
futsal, and if you call it
Like
futsal,
pickleball.
indoor soccer futsal, so, the word futsal is new in the community. So I think just getting past what the activity is called will help us. But I think we had enough happiness with the parents that it's gonna attract more.
Good. Okay,
Thanks, Tabor.
next thing is
Aquatics, Nancy?
aquatics.
The first one on there is the community center aquatics. The full-time budget for this includes the aquatics and special event supervisor, which is obviously Nancy, and then also our full-time pool manager, which is Mike Minshew. The community center pool itself, we're getting to that time of the year we close for maintenance every year. It will be closing next week, starting Monday through the week, to do some maintenance. We're going to do some upgrades in the shower areas of both locker rooms at the indoor pool.
Okay.
Like our outdoor pool, our lifeguard situation is much improved, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute with Woolman also. But Nancy, I don't know if you have anything to add as far as operations seem to be going really well at the indoor pool.
Yeah, things going very smoothly, no complaints.
Okay.
And then skip over one.
Just
Yes,
out
sir.
of curiosity on liquor tax, you're estimating really 56,000 this year. And people are really gonna start drinking next year and increase it up to 69,000, or?
Those numbers come from the state website. They
Oh.
actually post those. Yeah, I know. Higher level of stress. A lot more. But those numbers are provided by the state, so,
Yeah, it's about a 30% increase in liquor.
yes.
I don't know if that's
Thumbs up.
related to the being
Liquor
able to
tax.
buy in the grocery stores the stronger beer.
Yeah.
That
I
may be.
don't know,
Because I think
I mean,
you
all
get
it's gonna
like
do
the
is
legislative-
cannibalize other sales.
Yeah.
potentially. I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know.
I think on that one though, they said that wouldn't be enacted till 2019. Is that right on the liquor store?
Maybe just more quantity.
Yeah.
More stress.
More people are drinking and swimming.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
So skip over performing
Performing
arts
arts
and
counts.
community center.
Okay, and we go back to
That takes you to aquatics center.
aquatics.
Oh, we're back to the aquatics.
No,
No,
aquatics
go
center.
forward.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
forward.
This is the order
Yeah.
that skips, yeah.
And obviously, the biggest change from last year to this year is our lifeguard numbers and situation. We are in absolutely fantastic shape this year, especially compared to last year. We made some changes to get there. Obviously, one was increasing the pay for our lifeguards. Got that up to $8.25 an hour for their starting pay. And the other, which was probably even more beneficial, is we reduced the age from 16 to 15, which became the same as what they do up on post and in Lansing.
Okay.
What we found is we were running people through our lifeguarding classes at the age of 15, and they were going and getting a job somewhere, whether it be on post or over in Lansing. Once you go somewhere and get set in, you're there. And,
Yeah.
so we were losing a lot that way. So that's helped out tremendously also.
Good, good.
Steve,
That's
you were
good,
talking about
because
the
you're
slides
one of the
about-
few employers that young people can still go to get a first job. That's getting harder and
Yes.
harder.
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing you may see, a bill that's just been passed by the Kansas legislature that affects us is the amusement park ride bill. And included in that, it's a result of the accident that occurred at the
Sure.
wreck last year down at Schlitterbahn.
Yeah.
And so it includes water slides, specifically water slides over the height of 15 feet. So that includes our yellow slide out at the Woman
Oh,
Aquatic
really?
Center.
Okay.
This bill was passed and effective July 1st. What it requires is it requires inspection of your slides. And it actually also includes bounce houses, which, as you know, we put bounce houses out at areas. But right now, the more important item is the slide, obviously. Enforcement, actual enforcement where you'll pay penalties towards not having those permits will not be enforced until 2018. So they're giving entities and everybody a chance to get these permits, get them inspected and get your permits. It's a lengthy process because there's not very many inspectors that are qualified to do this. We're finding that out real
Oh,
quick
gosh.
through the Kansas Department of Labor.
That's what I was gonna ask, is it
Yeah.
coming through the state and
Right,
your
correct.
inspectors?
Correct. They have a list on there, and the list isn't very long. Nancy has started the application process to get our slide as well as our bounce houses inspected and permitted and everything.
But the slides remain open now?
They remain open at this time.
And for inspections, like, they look for, obviously, that it's structurally sound and, I mean, are you looking at like safety nets or something like that? What's gonna happen with that?
You know, I'm not 100% sure on that.
Mhm.
My guess is they're looking at all the above. Obviously, the accident that occurred last year was nothing structurally with it was just the way,
The
you know, or the
Design,
design.
so that's
Design,
engineering
yeah.
inspection,
Right,
probably.
so they probably look at everything. They probably look at, make sure everything's structurally sound, you know, physically, but then they probably look at what's the propulsion of the water and
Right,
what.
the drop off.
And I think the angle
all
of,
that.
you know, where
Angles,
you could
right.
go airborne.
And
That's
possibly
what
how
happened
sharp
in
your,
that
correct.
trial.
Is-
Yeah.
And possibly how sharp your curves are in relation to the speed of water. I'm guessing they probably run through the whole
So,
gamut.
okay,
Yeah.
just, how detailed it's, gonna
Right.
get, okay.
I'm sure it's pretty detailed. So we're staying up to speed on that. We're meeting with Tom Dawson, the city attorney, tomorrow, just to kind of discuss and make sure everything we're doing is in the city's best interest,
Okay.
as far as continuing with operating the slide as it is, and we'll get, you know, keep in compliance. Other than that, all the operations out at the aquatic center seem to be going great.
Mhm.
Nancy staff's doing a great job, as far as, we've only had one contamination, I believe, issue this year, which is good.
Knock on wood,
Knock on
don't
wood.
jinx that, yeah.
But I think we've publicized that a little better,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
as far as the swim diapers and making sure, you know, if you're sick, please refrain from the pool.
One thing the cashiers are doing too, when they notice families coming in, asking, do you need a swim diaper today? If
Oh,
you do,
good.
we sell them there for just $1.
Oh,
So
that's
they're being
good.
proactive and asking when they see toddlers.
Mhm.
Very good, very good. Okay. That's nice.
What's the rules again if you have that accident? 24 hours has to be shut?
Yes.
If it's non-containable.
It's non-containable, yeah. If it's.
No, you don't have to explain.
Okay.
You have containable and non-containable.
Yeah.
So that's kind of self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Containable's 3 hours, I believe. That's enough, I'm sorry.
Floating room.
We did get the pool painted, you'll recall, this spring, and recaulked the joints in the pool, and that, they did a fantastic job. Turned out really well.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Performing arts, is that next? Or what do you want to do next?
Yep.
They have performing arts and
Ron Mazia was supposed to be here, the vice president of the River City Community Players. But I can pretty much cover it. I can find where we're at.
do you want to go with Tammy first, the community center, or in case it comes in?
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah, we want to do that. And then we go to come in and.
Community center, the full-time budget includes the community center manager, which obviously is Tammy. Also the maintenance supervisor, which is Chuck Phillips, and then he also has a full-time maintenance employee that works with him also.
Okay.
And then obviously quite a bit of part-time with all of the cashiers and building supervisors and part-time maintenance staff as well. Room rentals continue to go up. Tammy continues to do a great job of selling the building, and I think the best way she sells it is in her service and the whole staff service, and we get nothing but compliments regarding her and her staff, and as well as the caterer. Terry Booker does a great job.
He does.
So with that, I don't know if you have anything to add as far as building. We made some nice upgrades here in the last few years with the new windows and the railing out front. I hope everybody feels like that turned out well. I think
It's
it
beautiful,
looks
yeah,
good.
very nice, sturdy.
We have some less than sexy maintenance issues coming up. We have several leaks in the roof. It's the original roof, flat roof that was put on when the building was in 1988 when it was redone. And that's something that we're looking at, hopefully.
Time ago, yeah.
I know, it's almost 30 years already, so.
Wow.
So that's something we battle. We plug a hole here and then there's another hole here, and so that's something we're battling, and hopefully we'll continue to work through the CIP and see if we can't get something done with that. And I know the other maintenance item that Tammy's really looking for is the replacement of the carpet in the Riverview room too. So that's another thing we're looking for.
You're gonna replace it with carpet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise it gets too loud.
Right.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Yeah, those other rooms, it's hard to hear in the rooms because
There's always an echo.
yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
What,
the acoustics are really good in that room,
Yeah.
I have to say.
what caused the big drop in food service from 2016 to 2017? You had 235,000 in 2016, and you budgeted 60,000 less, but you come in 35,000 less. Was there some big events that really drove it up?
There probably were a few events that have moved on. We did lose, this year we lost the Cushing Gala
Okay.
to Stoke Loss. That was a really big
Yeah,
one.
that's right.
But I think that we will end the year very well. Most of, a big chunk of the, not only the room rental, but also the catering comes at the end of the year.
Okay, yeah.
So with all
Holiday
the
season.
Christmas parties and everything, so.
Okay, thank you.
You know, our estimated revenues are actually higher than they've been. We expect to be bringing in more by the end of the year. I think Tammy said we only have a couple Saturdays, the review room's even available for the rest of the year. Is that
Oh,
correct?
really?
I have 2 in November, and then I still have some in December, but I know that they'll book. Yeah, the first snap of cold, I'll be bombarded with Christmas party requests, so, but the one before Thanksgiving and the one after Thanksgiving are sometimes a little tricky to fill. I think it'll happen, but
Yeah,
they haven't yet.
good.
One item we are looking at, and this is not only community center, but since that's where our operations are out of, we're looking forward to working with finance and IT going into this fall and the winter, and hopefully getting online with all of our registrations with the Tyler Parks and Rec. Yeah, we've had several meetings with finance and the Tyler folks, and it looks like a program that'll really fit us well, and it's obviously the financial system that we currently have, where we'll be able to take care of most, if not all, of our needs regarding, whether it's a shelter reservation or a room reservation or baseball registration, stuff like that, and hopefully be able to streamline it. And of course, along with that, then all of our registrations and rentals, you can expect them to rise just because of the ease of it. So
Yeah, that would be a good deal.
it would be
Be able to do
fantastic.
that, yeah.
And so I think it's been a long time coming, but it looks like operationally that'll streamline our office operations so much and help out tremendously in all aspects of it.
Okay. Anything else? All right.
Pass on my compliments to the job you do down there. I know I'm down to Riverfront, as you know, a week, sometimes several times a week through everything I do, and it's always great down there, and I've never heard any complaints from the people that I associate with down there, so great job.
Great, thank
Good
you, thank you. I met with people from Fort Leavenworth today, and the gentleman's been stationed here a couple of years, and he was asking two of the ladies that were with him. One had never been at the community center, and the other one has done several events there, and he's like, why have I never heard of this place? Why haven't we used this place? It's fabulous. And so they've scheduled an event, and we'll, I'm sure, have more now, so.
That's great.
Good.
That's
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, performing arts.
Just kind of an overview, you'll recall we have the HVAC upgrade going on. The phase one was completed on time and under budget, and it involved replacing the cooling system, the compressors, as well as upgrading the electrical service to the building.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like the building's gonna take off now.
Yeah. Right.
When they kick in.
Right. It also included the digital control that will control, it already controls the cooling. And then now phase two that's currently going on is the boiler replacement, and it'll control that as well. The company, BCI, is currently there doing the work, putting in a lot of piping since it's going to be a hot water system. We've been able to coincide the River City Community Players schedule with, and haven't had to cancel any shows or anything.
That's good.
The contractors have done really well working with them, and they've done really well working together. So
Okay, sounds good.
yeah, it seems to be going well, and Spam-A-Lot is coming up later this month, I believe, the 28th.
Yeah, that looks interesting, yeah.
All right, sounds good. Anything else? Okay.
All right, thank
Thank
you all
you,
very
sir.
much.
You guys need a short break before we move into administration, or are you ready to keep going? Keep going? Okay, let's do it.
Maybe after administration.
Yeah, okay. Hello?
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi.
We're going to start with court.
Okay.
Municipal court,
find
is that
it
labeled
here?
municipal
Right,
court?
it's in
Okay,
the
yeah.
admin tab.
Okay,
It's in the
yeah.
admin tab,
But
okay.
just, make sure I'm in the legal or municipal, okay.
And this is Debbie Gillespie. She's our senior court clerk. She keeps everything running like clockwork. So.
Great, great.
Debbie, how much of our $126 speeding ticket does the city retain?
100.
$100.
You said municipal court? Yes, 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 okay, good.
Our
So
police chief was searching for that answer.
This budget isn't quite as exciting as fire or police, but we're going to go ahead and go through it. You'll notice that revenues are budgeted to be slightly reduced than the last year's budget, but that's not anything that the court can control. That just depends on what comes into them. And our expenses have remained fairly flat. You'll notice that 6206 and 6623 both increased due to the cloud circuits and backups that we've implemented citywide that's affected almost all of the other budgets. Debbie is lucky enough to have in 7099, we're going to have 2 new file cabinets for $800 included in her budget, so we're looking forward to that. And then on,
More storage.
Cabinets is good.
it's the little
The
things.
simple things in life there, yeah.
And then you'll see in 7405, that line has an increase because of the 2016 office licenses.
Sure.
And those are the highlights of this budget. So.
Okay.
Debbie, how many employees do you have?
I have one other full-time employee and 2 part-time.
And we hear nothing but good things from the judge, prosecutor, and
Yeah,
other
I
attorneys.
heard that too, yeah,
So.
yeah. Good.
Debbie, how did the Amnesty Day go? Did you work with?
We feel it was a complete success. We cleared, if I recall right, 29 actual outstanding warrants. That doesn't seem like a lot, but a lot of them were old. We also resolved another 6 to 7 gonna be signed warrant cases that day. I think that the best thing about the whole morning was that the people that came in got a chance to sit in a casual fashion with a representative from the police department, with a representative city attorney, court-appointed attorney. The judge was in a more casual, he was still at the bench and, you know, did his thing as he has to, but it was a lot more casual. We had a representative from probation, and we did a lot of talking. And we spent a lot of time explaining to people that not to be afraid to come in on warrants on Thursdays, what our court hours are, what usually happens on that day, to just not let things get out of hand that we can help them with.
Good.
And we actually gave them 15 minutes to text their friends and so forth. We said, you have 15 minutes of cell phone activity, you know, text or call anybody that you know that has a warrant, have them come in.
Great.
So.
Maybe a $10 commission for each one.
And we really made it clear to everyone that they were not going to get arrested. And when they realized that, more people did show up later
Right.
on. And while I was there, I was surprised to see how much revenue they were collecting. And it was a win-win situation for everyone involved. So.
Well, we proved that it was an honest thing, so that if we are to do it again,
Be larger.
hopefully people will
That was
believe
actually
us.
going to be my question. Would it be your recommendation that maybe we try to do this again in the future?
We are all supportive of having another amnesty.
The
day.
second idea was, I think we had this Amnesty Day on October 7th of 2016, correct?
Correct.
I'm wondering if maybe, if we do attempt this again, if maybe we try for like February or March, where people are getting their income taxes back.
You're reading my mind.
And maybe we have to pay off those tickets, so maybe we ought to think about doing this again in 2018, in the early part of the year, February or March, and maybe see if we can. And I also, through social networking, I realized the first time it was put out, there was a lot of misconceptions. This was a setup to get arrested, as we could attest to that. And I think after we've already had it once and we've proven that this was a legitimate thing to help people, that maybe we'll get even a better response if we do this again, maybe, early next year.
Yeah, and we've already kind of discussed that, and we're looking forward to doing something. And
Super.
we're not going to publish what the
No.
dates are yet,
No, no.
but we're really looking forward to it, and we'll begin marketing that, and hopefully getting the word out will help make it even more successful the next time.
Great, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you.
And as I do every year, here's a copy of the docket for you all, so you can see what we're up
Okay.
to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that one docket for all of us, or is there 6 dockets, 5 dockets?
There are 5 dockets there, okay. Yeah.
Okay, next is the probation budget.
Probation lives in 2 places. It's sort of separated by a 2-page economic development. So you'll see your first probation sheet will have zeros for 2017, estimated 2018 proposed, and that's strictly an accounting, bringing it in as its own fund in the city. As you know, we took it over, so that's why it's structured like that.
And this is Robin McDowell. She runs the probation.
We need to put numbers on some of these things so we can find what we're doing.
I think we're paddling a little bit better now. next year, so we will find
So
it.
with page numbers, it'd be a big help.
Yeah.
This is Robin McDowell. She runs the probation division for us.
What's your last name?
McDowell?
McDowell, okay.
So as you know, in December, we did take over the probation services division from the county, and Robin was previously employed with the county and moved over as a city employee, and she has a second probation officer and then a part-time administrative clerk in her office. They're able to meet with people all day long, and they handle the services for Basser, Lansing, and Tonganoxie, as well as the Leavenworth municipal courts. And when we did take over the program, we had hoped that we'd be able to operate it at a lower cost than it was currently being operated at, and we are achieving that.
See that, yeah.
The way that the other cities pay, it's based on a calculation of the percentage of cases that we take in, and that's counted up at the end of every year. So with the case numbers that we had the year prior for 2016, it kind of, our cases for Leavenworth were lowered and the case numbers for all the other cities increased.
Okay.
So to make it a little more fair, we took $30,000 of the carryover that the county provided to us, and we reduced the premiums for this budget. So for the next year, we'll have we'll have our own numbers of the case numbers, but no one paid more than they did the year before for the actual premiums. So you'll see line 5497. That is the amount that we'll take in from the other cities, and our portion would be the liquor tax of the 4204 is the amount that we're paying. And then you'll see we've got the personnel expenses and then all the other expenses for running their office. And we've had positive feedback from all of the other courts. They're very happy with the services that we're providing, and they couldn't tell that there was a change in command. And Robin's done a great job of leading this division, and I know that the court, municipal court, even with Leavenworth, has been very happy having them as city employees because they're able to provide a little more assistance in court. And then she has a great team working with her as well. So.
Yeah, no, read the letter of the judge that spoke very highly of you, and it was like, whew, did the right thing.
Me too, I did that same thing.
Yeah, it seems now in hindsight, that of course it was going to work well, but it was out on a limb a little bit, and with Taylor and Robin, I think did a really good job.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to say?
No, just I'm grateful to be an employee of the city of Leavenworth. It's such a change from working for the county. Change for the better.
I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
Do you want to tell them a little bit about the services you offer?
We do both probation and diversion for all the cities in Leavenworth County. That includes pre-sentence investigations, which we'll do a background check for criminal history on individuals for sentencing, and then give the judge recommendations as far as the sentence recommendations, how much jail time, how much fines they pay. We also do diversions for all the cities, which includes us doing the paperwork and collecting the funds up front for those individuals to be able to keep these from going on their record as a conviction. We also do appointments daily.
Our schedule's very full.
We struggle with our appointments, but we do appointments daily. We do urinalysis testing to make sure that our clients are safe to put back out on our streets, and so it's hectic, but it's a rewarding job at times.
Good. I'm glad you said that's great. Good to hear.
Thank you, Robin.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
All right, thank you.
Have a great day.
CBB is back tab. It's its own tab right before admin.
got Christy Lee,
Great.
as you know, our CVB manager. And the CVB budget is one of the more exciting ones as it's growing, and we have the 2 hotels currently, but we'll have the Home 2 suites for all of next year on the transient and guest tax, and then we'll have partially the second Ferguson hotel for the next year's budget as well. So we're very excited for that. If you look at 4209, you'll see that we did have a little bit of a reduction this year in our transient and guest tax so far, but next year is proposed to be about the same as what we took in 2016, and then it'll go up from there.
Why was there less?
Transit guest tax, the history, I mean, even from like or when I worked in Ottawa, and that would be going up and down. So I think
Okay.
it just depends on the amount, and here especially, I think it's gonna be interesting to continue to track it with the STAR
Sure.
report and that, just to see how it does cycle throughout the year and that. But I think it has a lot to do with the different classes that are coming in,
Okay.
if they are paying transient guest tax, if
Or
they're
they're
not.
Okay.
I think we're gonna see that.
Okay.
I think it's-
In the past, it would have really dramatic swings up and down.
Yeah.
And I mean, there would be times it would go in the red, and this is actually not as dramatic.
It's
Yeah.
good to see it, 3-digit numbers.
Yes, it is, yeah, and that I was gonna say, yeah,
Right.
so
And if you
that's
look at-
the nature of it, yeah.
It is.
If you look at line 5999, that's actually our carryover. So you'll see we have the 3-digit carryover as well,
Yeah. Yeah.
which will be there if we have special projects or other things that we want to do down the line.
Yeah, and we've talked about that in goal setting, about once, it's so hard to, there's always another hotel opening. Once 3 are open or 4 are open and we have an idea of a little history on the stream, then we can start discussing what's the best use for
best
those
use.
funds. You don't
Right.
necessarily want them just to accumulate and accumulate and accumulate.
Right.
Which is why we introduced the grant program. And maybe look at bolstering that or, other fashions, so.
What about, we did have a history of some hotels not paying, and we relied on the state to collect, and of course they didn't get around to it. Now we have that authority. How are we doing on that?
We are doing very well on that. We don't have any that are delinquent or past due, since they pay us directly and it doesn't go through the state and then come back to us. We have a real good handle on exactly who pays, when they pay, the date they're supposed to pay. If they're not in here, we're giving them a call, letting them know. Even if they're not, they're due on the 25th of each month. So if we don't have them by noon, we're calling them, going, don't forget, you gotta be in here today. So we're right on top of it.
Are they ever audited?
They can be. We have not audited anybody.
Do we
since
have
we've
the
taken-
authority to
we
audit,
do.
or is it the state audit?
We have the authority. When we wrote the charter ordinance, we put in that we
Yeah.
had the authority to audit them if we felt the need.
If, based on your knowledge, this 350 or 267,000 we're gonna get this year, how much does Marriott and Hampton bring in that 267,000? 250?
I can't really give out those kind of numbers.
Okay,
But
they are more than the lion's share.
yes, they
Yeah,
are. the majority,
yeah.
yes.
And another small component of this, we did enter into that agreement with Airbnb, so we will be collecting, well, we already are collecting transient guest tax from that, but we might see a small bump in the rest of this year from that too, that we
This
weren't
was
previously
This
receiving.
month was the first one that we collected from Airbnb, so
Yeah.
huge amount, but
Yeah, everything, okay.
So, moving on, the personnel expenses, she has, her office assistant is full-time now. That change was in December.
Yes.
If you want to go over some of your contractual services.
Okay. Contractual services are on the next page. Really, the only bump that you'll kind of see going across there is just our promotional advertising and that, trying to expend a little bit more of that income on advertising and marketing and that, and we'll continue to monitor that as the funding increases or decreases and that. The rest of our proposed budgets are similar to what they have been in the past in that we are still attending registration. I know in 17 was at 10,000, but that was a little bit too much. And so I brought it back down to about 8,000, but that still includes like 7 trade shows and 2 conferences. So we haven't cut back on conferences. It was just that the amount of money was a little too much in the line item there. So we just brought it down a little bit. And then of course the promotional part, we did bump that up some.
And Christy's been evaluating some of the conferences and trade shows that she has went to in the past, and some of them weren't as rewarding as others, so we've been trying to prioritize those, and she's kind of retooled what she's doing for next year and going to a couple new ones, eliminating a couple that weren't as good, but several of them have had promising leads, and she's had several bus tours and
Had a few
fam
tours
tours.
this year already, so
Yeah.
that's been great.
So it's looking up, but it's just one of those things of marketing
Continue
Leavenworth
there.
and
Yes.
getting the people here.
Yeah, a question like the niche, like specialty tours, like that have like a certain, like there's some that are maybe religious or history, certain types of history, like Civil War history, or just as an example, not necessarily here, but are those becoming more popular, or is there viability in those?
That was one of the ones that I wasn't going to attend next year, or I didn't include it, the Going on Faith one. I did put it on this year's, and I'll be attending that in September.
Okay.
However, a lot of the tour companies, it seems they are not doing as many tours now that they used to. Like bank tours used to just do 10,
Yeah.
12 a year,
And
and
that-
they've cut
They-
way back.
Yeah, they're not into that anymore.
Right,
Yeah.
so we're still, so that means they're cutting it back, and then there's a lot larger competition before those 1 or 2 tours that they're doing.
Okay.
And I think even with the Going on Faith one especially, I mean, we're up against the Passion Plays, we're up against, the new, brand new ark that was built. So a lot of, competition as far as those. But we have a ton of history as far as our churches and that, so I'm going to I'll go this year again and present those and that, and just see what kind of feedback I get. But I did not include it on my, as one of my trade shows next year. It might be one that we can go to every couple years and just see where we're at and that.
Yeah,
But that's one of them that I'm kind of reevaluating.
Okay.
So yes, there are niche markets.
Okay.
Small market meetings, the Going on Faith, the bank travel, they do try and break them
Okay,
down some.
okay.
So,
Well, it seems like, in the past, the CVB's almost been totally focused on tours where so many good opportunities have come up this year with the wall and with the bike across Kansas was amazing.
Yes,
I mean,
wasn't that
what a
great?
great
Yeah,
job to
yes.
get everybody out there cheering on those 800 and some people that
Yeah, and those are like more
shopped in our-
events than
They are, but
tours,
still.
but no, but those
No,
are,
it's
but that's,
CVB.
it's all
brings-
putting people heads in beds, yeah, and
Yes,
that's,
it's
so,
one more thing other
yeah.
than just the tours, which was,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think it's just great, just seeing those opportunities, because they've come here before, but we never did anything like that, What a great event.
So trying to keep my ears and eyes open for
Sure.
different things that are out there and that, trying to concentrate a little bit more on the marketing of our meeting venues
Yes.
and that as well. And byways, hopefully we're gonna be getting the byways up and going again.
That's exciting,
The
too.
historic Frontier Military Byway has kind of fell by the wayside the last couple of years, but there's a few of us that are getting on the stick again, and we're gonna try and bring that one back. So hopefully we
Well, that's
can
a
bring
great
a,
link to
it
link us
is.
in with the
It's-
other areas too, to
It
do
is
that, to
good.
get those people that we didn't have before.
yeah. One, like versus the tours and say more of the events things, because there's usually somebody else coordinating that. Do you need more volunteers depending on what's coming?
Right now, we've got our CVB ambassadors that we reach out to all the time. Deion Smith with the.
Yeah, you've got a good
with-
contingency of them.
We have a pretty good, we've got about 10 right now that are pretty reliable, that help us out with different events and that. She's getting ready to send one out. A Sign Up Genius is how we usually do it for Pear Day, which is
Yeah.
just around the corner to help us to man the booth and that. And then again, for the solar eclipse on that following Monday.
Okay.
So we're going to be setting up a booth down at the landing and that. So, but there's always, sometimes when we don't have the, some of our volunteers show up or whatever. So there's always an option, that if someone has some time or would like to volunteer, that we
Well,
would love to.
And I was just,
have
and
them.
what brought it to mind is like after the bike event that was here, and they were wearing their T-shirts, which is really good, but yeah, we went into a couple of places, then we went into one of the restaurants after that, and it was like packed with guys in T-shirts and that. So you could see that your volunteers were kind of out in full force, and I was just wondering, is that gonna need to grow? If as we get maybe shifting away from the bus tours to maybe
I
doing
can see
more
that growing,
events.
sure. I can
Okay.
definitely see that
Okay.
growing as we can bring in
Just
more.
ask people as we go, you might wanna
Mhm.
think about volunteering
Right.
there, yeah, okay.
We need to probably move on here, that's,
Sure.
we appreciate
So if you look at
everything you do, Chris.
6917, the 25,000, that's 20,000 of that's the grant program, and then 5,000 is meant for other sponsorships throughout the state with the travel organizations. And then if you look at capital outlay at 8299 improvements, the 20,000 that's for redoing the wayside marker program that we have throughout the city.
Great.
So we're looking forward to continuing to do bigger and greater things and bring more people here.
Sounds great. Thank you so much,
Thank
Christine.
you very much. Thank you.
Let's go back to the very first page of the admin tab, City Commission.
we're gonna
We'll
go
skip
back.
planners 2 and section 8.
Okay.
See if Amy and Pat come, otherwise I can do it.
Okay.
So the City Commission budget starts with full-time salaries. This will be the 14th year that the commission salaries have been where they are. They were set in 2004 at their current level. So that's where they are. Other than that, there are almost absolutely no changes to the budget year over year. I actually think because of Taylor just making sure what dues and subscriptions are, a slight decrease in that, the budget actually drops a couple $100 year over year. So
Okay.
I don't have anything else on the city commission budget.
Okay. City manager?
City manager budget is similar. The question always is the charges for service, the revenue. That's the video sharing that we do, Nick Shale with the school district on video projects. So it comes in as revenue and it goes out elsewhere as an expense. It's a 50-50 cost share. The lodging slightly increases. That is the Association of Defense Communities National Summit, which I went to this year, but it was out of the contingency, and this just budgets it, which ended up being a very worthwhile event, I believe. So other than that, there are no substantial changes, and even a slight decline in contractual services
Okay.
year over year. Any comments on that budget? Not much going on there.
I don't think so. Legal?
Continuing to the next page, legal, that is what we pay Tom Dawson to be our city attorney. It's budgeted at $50,000. Looks like in 2016 the actual came in at $39,000. He sends monthly billings with detailed descriptions of what he did and the number of hours, and we process it. Not much else there.
Budget more in case we're needing.
Yeah. Yeah, it shows up in other places.
It is a report already,
Here it is,
so.
report. Contingency, that is just various items throughout the year, small studies, repairs to some Christmas wreaths that we did for a couple $1,000s. I think
It is 6607,
6607.
50,000 proposed 2018.
That's the proposed budget in 2018. So what we did last year was we increased the millage for probation. And if probation didn't need it, it was gonna go into contingency. Well, probation
got it.
needed it,
Okay.
so it's spent there, but probation is solvent essentially in 18, so that will increase
Come
the
back in.
contingency. In a history, and 50,000 is more than sufficient. That fund used to be $100,000, and then it was 75 and 50 and 25. So this takes it back to about half. But it's plenty sufficient for that.
Okay.
Airport is the enhanced use lease that we do for Sherman Army Airfield. Essentially no changes year over year. The big one there, professional services, that is just the contract that we pay Needham. Civil defense is the landfill, if I'm correct. Does that sound right?
No, this is what we pay the
It's an
county.
annual fee that we pay the county for civil defense.
Okay.
I think it's
Yep.
Be woke up every Wednesday at 11 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Surely they got those little crackers down in the vault somewhere if you get too long.
And then that, and a couple pages in economic development, I'll let you take that one.
Economic development.
Okay, economic development, it actually pays for part of my salary and then it's there for any other economic development projects that we might have come up throughout the year. It also pays for our grant program to small businesses, which has really picked up a lot of pace this year. I think it's just getting the word out has been really helpful. People just don't believe that they literally get free money. So we still provide $5,000 for a single tenant building that's a matching funds. If they spend 10, and then if they have a multi-tenant building, they get 15 if they spend 30,
Okay.
up to 15. So in 2016, I think we changed the line item that it was coming out of, correct, Ruby? So that 9,000, we actually paid out about 32,000 of the 59,800 that we had approved. Some of those spilled into this year or still have not been finalized.
Okay.
It's dependent on the people providing a paid invoice and having the work complete, which some of them just don't quite get there or it takes quite a while. If you have any other questions on that, I'm happy to help.
Okay. Next is planners two.
Yep, so that's just right after probation. As you all know, I still serve as the executive director of the Housing Authority. Planners 2 is humming right along. They do extremely well. They're almost always full. We have a vacancy for more than 30 days. We have to let HUD know why, and that doesn't happen very often.
I think the people like it. I do patient visits there a lot, and I do.
Yeah,
they
overall,
really-
just like
really
any
happy
other
there.
place with that many people, there's a handful of complaints, and we try to address those the best we can. They are working on some capital projects, but other than that, they're grant supported, so they're as well.
Section 8.
Section 8 and dash, also, that's on an accounting basis, we have a HUD held reserve, so sometimes we spend more than we have, but HUD holds a savings or an amount for us. So if we overspend, then we're able to replenish our funds. A very popular program, always a waiting list for those, and we hope to use all of our, we always have a couple VASH vouchers available, but we hope to use those with the Pioneer Group, adding more units up on the VA campus. But both those programs run well and are funded to the levels that we need them to. I don't really have any other comments on those two unless you have any questions.
Okay, is that it for administration? We did everything. All right, city clerk. And we're right on time with the city clerk. Got up again.
Right, so.
for the city clerk's budget, if you look at the revenue portion of it, business license and various license and permits for this next year, are showing down slightly on that. This last year in 2016, we ended with kind of a record high in business license, and I think we're kind of seeing a trend where we're collecting a lot more. Nothing's really gone up, nothing's been added, we're just, I think, being a little bit more diligent about the collection process of those. And of course, there isn't just a general business license, those include the liquor license, alarms, solicitors, permits, massage, taxi cab, lodging, and health permits. And I will say the solicitor permits, we have really done really well collecting this summer. I mean, we've gotten a lot of people in and collected a lot of money into that, so.
And people are starting, now finally, they're starting to ask for that permit.
Yes, and
When somebody comes door to
Yeah.
door, which is, for the general public, that's very important that you do that.
Yes, and we're trying to get that word out to people that when someone knocks at your door, please ask for their permit. They have to carry it on them. That's one of the requirements of it. So we're going to continue to do some public service things about that to make sure people are aware when someone's knocking on your door, they should.
And the remedy if they don't have one? Call the police or call you?
If it's during regular business hours, call the city clerk's office. If it's after business hours, they can call the police department on emergency.
Yeah, I always
number.
call the non-emergency dispatch.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
But
it's after business hours, you should really not be opening your door to them.
Well, and the ordinance says nobody's supposed to be soliciting on Sundays at all, so.
And they have to carry that with them because
They have to carry that with them.
some people will say, oh, it's in my boss's car, whatever. No, they have to carry that
Yes.
permit with
Because
them when
each
they're
if
soliciting.
you have a 12-person team, each
They
person
each-
has one.
They
Yeah.
each have one, and I've toyed with the idea of actually getting more of a lanyard type
Yeah.
thing that say you have to physically show it, so it's being shown.
Mhm.
So I've kind of toyed with that.
It
Got
would
a
be
few
more
things.
labor intensive though
Yeah,
and costly.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so, I've kind of thought about some of those things, and I do have a few things. Probably within the next couple of months, I'll bring to the city commission just to see what your thoughts are about doing some additional, putting some more layers into some of these things that give us a little bit more ability to enforce better,
Good.
so.
That's so important, I think.
And then to the expense portion of it, the biggest increase is in personnel expenses from our department. I don't have a lot of other real big expenses. In 2016, we had budgeted $30,000 for the possible primary, which we will need to do, so we'll know soon what the exact price of that is. But that's something that we won't need for 2018, excuse me. So that's not in there. And insurance is probably one of the other big items on there. The agreement that we signed with One Beacon this year held those prices for 3 years. Now, if we add to our fleet of vehicles, if we add property, of course, that's going to go up, but our base price is going to be the same, so we shouldn't see too much of an increase there. Codification services, that's anytime we make a change to our code of ordinance, and we have to codify that in there. I toyed with the idea of doing a complete recodification of our books, because we haven't done it in about 20 years. And I decided not to, because the main cost of it is printing the books themselves, and just not that many people use the hard copy books anymore, and I just couldn't, I was astonished by the amount that they quoted, and I just couldn't see doing it because most people are looking at it online.
Yeah.
So the 10,000 is just the normal codification, and I did bump it up a little bit more for 2018 just because the development regs, because they've been going through doing a lot of updating to those.
Right.
When we do an update to those, it's quite a few pages, it's quite a bit, and every page and every word and everything is more costly, so that's why I bumped that up a little bit more, because I think that is going to cost us a little bit more in the next couple of years just to get that the way we want it. Other than that, I don't really have anything else too exciting.
Hey, questions on
Anything.
it. Thank you.
Bang up job in there.
Yeah.
You guys want to take a 5-minute break here?
Yeah, we got time.
Okay, let's do it. Okay,
Hopefully.
personnel.
And mine will probably be short and sweet because mine's pretty boring. Same thing pretty much year after year. The only significant we really had in the line items for the changes is you'll see somewhat, in comparative purposes, somewhat drastic increase in the professional services. That is as a result of our flexible spending account.
Where are you at? What number?
6699.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
Next page.
Okay.
Everything else pretty much is standard and stayed the same across the board, but the 6699, the professional services, our flex spending account, we were guaranteed a locked rate with when Aflac switched over from Flex One to WageWorks and outsourced their flex spending account administration. We were guaranteed the same rates for 3 years. That 3 years expired last year.
Okay.
So they started adding on a monthly service fee in addition to the per participant fee. They tried for $50 a month. We got it negotiated down to $25 last year. So we will have a little bit of an increase in this year's actual budget as well, but next year the increase is back up to the 50 as well as the increase per participant fee. So we bid that service out, and Michelle and I have reviewed three different vendors.
Okay.
And looking at going to a different vendor who does not charge a monthly service fee, but just has a flat per participant fee and has even thrown in a guaranteed lifetime fee.
Okay,
So
there
we
you
won't
go.
have the increases. After that, it is increased significantly in comparison to the $325 fee that we're currently paying. We're looking at about a $380 per participant fee, but no $25 or $50 a month service fee on
Right.
top of that charge and guaranteed rates.
What was it for again?
That's for the flexible spending account, the unreimbursed medical and dependent
Okay.
daycare accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And we also had roughly almost double the participation this year at renewal for those accounts. So
Okay.
primarily in the unreimbursed medical. The dependent daycare has stayed pretty steady with a low number, but the unreimbursed medical has really had an increase.
Okay.
And the good thing with that is obviously the unreimbursed medical, the flex spending account saves the cities a little bit in taxes by that tax-free. So it does help a little bit, but there is gonna be an increase in those fees. Other than that, the insurance as far as the COBRA administration, dues and memberships to subscriptions for IPMA went up a little bit in the fact that I am going to have Michelle enroll for the local membership through IPMA, the Kansas City chapter, instead of just the national chapter membership that we have now. The financial services, depending upon how things go with the salary survey, that was originally built in for the Mark survey, which ran somewhere between $400 and $600 for the annual survey that we used to participate in. With the changes that they've done with that, it's not as usable as it was, so Paul and I know have discussed a possible salary survey and getting back to some kind of standard in how we look at our market adjustments each year.
Okay.
If we do that, then obviously that 500 is way under budget for what that would cost, depending upon which direction we took. Counseling services, the EAP, that has stayed pretty standard and steady over the years. Slight increases about every other year with them, so this year hopefully will be a flat year for us.
Okay.
Other than that,
No,
everything's
no,
pretty
no,
standard.
no questions, yeah. Okay.
Fire and police pensions.
And there's not really a whole lot.
Fire pensions. Fire.
And we usually do, and Ruby, you're gonna have to help me out on this, 2%?
We did 3% based on
3%.
the same that we
The
did
city,
for
okay.
the city.
Okay.
So 3% increase for the pensions. Like I
Pretty
said, pretty standard.
self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Any
so-
other questions?
No,
No.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Finance.
Ruby, you get to talk.
Okay, for my budget, again, pretty standard. Some of the changes that you'll notice are in dues and subscriptions. We have Stephanie as part of has a membership in the NIGP, which is the National Institute for Government Procurement. It gives her an opportunity to have free webinars for training purposes and things like that. And then Karen, Stephanie, and myself have memberships to the GFOA, and Linda has memberships to the National Payroll Association. One of the other increases will be financial services. With the implementation of GASB 68, we're required to have an actuarial liability review of our pension plans every year now, so that's what's included in there. And the other increase is in our non-cap software as related to the cloud. And that's about all the exciting stuff in my office, unless you have any questions.
Okay.
On the general revenues, this is where we track the actual, the majority of the revenues that are considered citywide revenues. They're not specific to any department. The assessed valuation, as Paul mentioned last night in his presentation, is up. So the mills will actually generate a higher dollar amount for the mill levies. Pretty much all of the others stayed about the same. We did budget for, in the past, what we've done is budget a net property tax revenues, because with the NRA we have some rebates that we give to property owners, and this year we budgeted the full amount, and then at the bottom, if you look at 6917, that's the amount of refunds that we give to property owners who have applied for the NRAs.
On the very top of that, we collapsed 3 sales taxes into one. It does change the numbers. It's the compensating use tax, which is internet sales, the sales tax, which is half of the 1%, the other half goes to CIP, and then the sales tax property reduction amount, we collapse those into one. I'm not sold on taking compensating use tax out, but again, that doesn't change the numbers, it just changes how we account for it.
Okay.
But
How much do we get use tax?
Well, as you can see, in 2016, it was about 1.1 million, and I think it's probably going to be about 1.2, 1.3 million.
Most online sales now, I can't think of any that don't charge a tax. I don't use it that much, I guess my family, but anything that I buy online, you put in your zip code, it's 9.5%.
Right.
And I think everybody's online with that now. There are probably some small people on eBay or somebody that's not, but the major retailers are. I'm sure Amazon, I know, is.
Yes, I do.
And when we get this information from the state, I still track these separately, but for the purposes of budgeting, it was just simpler to keep it all in one line, so.
Okay.
And if you don't have any questions about that, I'll have Carol come out and talk about information services.
Sure.
Not a whole lot is changed for next year's budget on us. I am gonna increase the, it is the training budget, registration budget line item.
What number?
6403.
Okay.
We put 4,000 in there for this year. That will actually get us about one class as far as computer training goes. I have talked to some companies, and they have a kind of all-access pass for about $6,800, and it's free, unlimited training for the year for 2 technicians. So I wanted to bump that up to 7,000 on that.
It's more practical.
The other issue was, the telephone budget is staying essentially about the same. This year's budget is way out of whack. That's due to the backup cost and the extra lines. that we put in for the, and we decided instead of messing up everybody's budget for the year, that we would just mess up mine, and then there'll be, cost will be appropriated out next year in
Okay.
everybody's budget. So my budget won't change as much, except for the training, and then on the IT services, I'm going to put, usually I bump up the software maintenance every year because there's usually a 3 to 5% increase. And what I'm going to do, and usually part of that line item is $5,000. We usually get block hours for some high-level technicians that if we need help on certain things. We usually do that with one company, but now we're kind of dealing with two main companies. So instead of doing that, I wanted to move that $5,000 up to the IT services line, so that way I have that available to use for either company rather than doing block hours for the one.
Okay.
And so I think with that $5,000, I think I can go ahead and leave that software budget the same amount without increasing it, because that'll give me the $5,000 in case some people up their, some people do, some people don't, you know, up their services amount, so.
Okay.
Any questions?
No, anything else?
Citywide.
This is where we track and pay for health insurance and health benefits for retirees. When people retire, if they're eligible, they can put 60% of their sick leave balances into this account to help offset some of their insurance premiums, and so that's where this is tracked.
Explain that again.
When we have employees who retire, if they meet certain eligibility requirements, upon retirement, 60% of their sick leave balances can be paid into this account, and we help offset their health insurance premiums from here.
Or they can take it in cash.
They can take 20 to 40% in cash.
Okay. Is it an either or? Take 20 to 40% cash, and the other part they can put in the medical, or is it either or?
That's typically how they do
Okay,
it.
so you can split.
If they meet the eligibility requirements for the employee health benefit account, they get 40% in cash payout, and the 60% goes in here.
Okay.
When employees retire, if they don't meet that eligibility requirement, then they get a 20% payout.
Okay.
And then this is also where we have a transfer to street department. In 2016, it wasn't necessary. I budgeted for it just in case in 2017 and 2018, depending on how those years play out. And then the next is the bond fund. And this just is where we pay all of our bond and interest on our debt issuances from, except for the enterprise funds, which are paid from the sewer refuse fund.
Okay.
We talked about general revenue already.
CIP. We talking about CIP? We didn't talk about CIP.
See, I don't,
There's a separate page for that? I don't see it.
Look at that.
I don't have it in here.
Yeah.
The CIP expenses, that's the fund where we receive a portion of the sales tax. So we get, of the original 1% sales tax, 25% of it goes into the CIP fund. And that's where we allocate to the actual project fund. And so those projects will be identified in the CIP plan.
Okay.
And
So approximately 1 million,
about-
well, a little over a million and some change.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be about 2 million.
Yep.
for next year.
25% to 1%, not 25% to 2%.
Right. So I think it'll be, of course, there's the compensating use tax that goes into that also.
Okay.
Okay. Is that all for today?
That's all for today.
Okay. Tomorrow, Thursday, we'll see you at 1 o'clock, and we'll be talking about other things.
We'll wrap up the schedule for
Wrap up.
tomorrow.
3:30.
Yeah, looks like we're on schedule to not need a Friday session unless something blows up.
Okay.
Now, this is the closest we've been to schedule in a few years.
You're adjourned.